And we are live. What is up, everybody? Welcome to everybody who was waiting patiently for the show to start. EJ will be joining us shortly to complete my other half over here on the Bootleg Football Podcast. Hope my audio is coming through okay. Let me know if it's not, because it's always an adventure getting the technical side of these things correct. But happy to have you all here. We are less than a month away from the start of the NFL draft, about 4 weeks to go until round one. I want to say about 100 guys deep on evaluations right now, because I start typically every year. I start behind most draft media because I don't pick up till after the Super Bowl. So I'm chugging along. I'm getting there. I'm catching up. EJ's probably ahead of me. I know the PFF guys that we talk to regularly are ahead of me. But I'm working my way through it. Hopefully I want to get to 200 by the time the draft comes around, so I can give as much analysis as possible on day 2 and day 3 guys. I'm pretty set on day 1 guys, but it's those diamonds of the rough on day 2 that tend to make teams either good or great. So we'll kick off before we start. Check the water pipe. Yeah, if you guys don't know, my dumbass cut into a water line while replacing or putting in a new sink last week, so we had to delay this live stream until today. Fun fact, undermount kitchen sinks are a bitch and a half to get out, and an even bitchier and a half to get back in. You gotta like cut through all this wood that kind of supports it, because when they built the house, they put in everything and then put in the sink and then put in the countertop, so we had to cut shit out and replumb the whole thing, and it was a nightmare. But it's finally in. So I have a kitchen back. I haven't had a kitchen in a month. It's probably why you haven't seen a HelloFresh ad, is because I haven't been able to cook anything in a month. Looks like EJ's here. Let me bring him in here. And there he is. How you doing?
How you doing? I'm good.
I got us started talking about my kitchen sink adventures. Adventures of improvement, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
We got the group going here. Actually, let me.
Yeah, I gotta switch to the regular comments. Oh yeah, look at that. We need a bootleg football mock draft. Yes. We did that we did. We did that last year. We needed to do that again. Yeah, I remember. We did this. We did the share screen. It was one of our first share screens.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
about that.
Back in the quick and dirty days when it was like, hey, can we actually put this on the web? Can we do this?
Before we
look
were
at this though. I have the intro. You just have to hum the theme song, and then I'll just pretend that I'm pouring the beer.
Oh, you guys got yours?
Oh yeah.
I didn't get anything yet, man.
Oh, they're coming. They're coming.
Ships to Seattle faster than LA, I guess. I'm just rolling with Angel's Envy tonight.
I see how this works.
Make myself feel better for not getting our merch yet.
Yeah, that's all right. It's comfy, man. It's good stuff.
EJ's always on top of it. If you guys don't know Angel's Envy, by the way, it's technically a bourbon. It kind of skirts the line between being able to be called a bourbon and not, but it's bourbon finished in port casks, and it's phenomenal stuff. Do you know why they call it Angel's Envy, EJ, by the way?
Well, I know Angel's Share.
Yeah, that's exactly why. Because they consider this to be the envy. I'm already. You could tell I've been drinking since like 11. I was filming film rooms this morning. I've been drinking heavily. Don't.
I'm excited.
Don't give me shit.
I
like made myself coffee too, just in case I need to emergency sober up in the middle of this pod. So
well, it is 3 hours. This is my first beer of the day because I've been doing yard work with a Sawzall. So nowhere near the water line.
Nikki won't want to hear that.
No. The Sawzall made its appearance at my house a couple of days ago, working on this little chair mat that I made myself out of a nice piece of maple ply. And then, of course, once it's kind of like a groundhog. Once it comes up, everybody's like, "Hey, I've got a bunch of shit for you to do with that. You can cut down limbs and chop up that old swing set." And yeah. I can do all.
Oh, it's spring. We have to do stuff now. I've been doing all these home improvement projects since Super Bowl. Swapped out a whole bunch of lights, rewiring a whole bunch and putting in can lights. Obviously, the kitchen, low light TV, drywall. Just
all right. Here it goes.
Oh,
we need
man.
to do it. Thank you very much for the $20. Yeah, $20. Is that $20 Mexican? I believe MX.
I'll have to look it up. I'm assuming, yeah.
Either way, thank you for bringing it up. Thank you for breaking the ice. Yes, we need to address this. So I don't know about you, but this is multiple sources today. This is not just the Schefter thing. This is DJ as well, Daniel Jeremiah. Multiple voices around the NFL are saying that multiple voices around the NFL, and I know that sounds like an echo chamber, are that the smoke is real right now. Smoke and mirrors, draft season, lying season, whatever you want to say about all that, it's all true. They could, pull a rabbit out of their hat and do something else. But what everybody is hearing right now, and look, they know they don't have a shot. This is San Francisco trading up to 3. They know they don't have a shot at the top 2 quarterbacks. They are very happy, or they wouldn't have traded up to 3. We talked about this before. But everybody assumed that meant either Fields or Lance because of the mobility issues. Mac is mobile, but not that mobile, not mobile like those 2 guys above him are. But apparently the smoke is real. What everybody's hearing around the NFL is that San Francisco is indeed going to take Mac Jones at 3. They're going to keep Garoppolo. They're going to bring Jones along behind Garoppolo, presumably roll him out mid-year and let him go. And this brings up many questions, including yours. So Mac at 3. I don't know. We need to start talking about this as a real thing. Whether or not it happens, again, they could absolutely pull a switcheroo. But there's enough. I don't know. I feel like there's enough weight behind this now that we need to at least start talking about it as a real thing, because
it reminds me of the Daniel Jones at 6 thing.
Oh, man.
Started out as a conspiracy theory and then it wasn't. Or Baker's going to go number 1 over Darnold, which started out as a conspiracy theory and then it wasn't. Like, when it comes to quarterbacks, when all of a sudden, 6 different media guys, and especially quarterbacks with high picks where there's no threat to the pick, in terms of there's no threat to somebody jumping. Yep. As soon as there's no threat to a team getting jumped, and then every, or at least almost every media outlet's putting out that it's going to be Mac Jones, there's something to that. I'm starting to get convinced that it's actually going to be a thing. And this is a separate issue from what you and I would do. You and I wouldn't do it. And that's nothing against Mac Jones. He's fine.
No, I like him, but not at 3. And again, the Bears might end up with, I saw there's multiple scenarios around quarterbacks in every draft, but in this one especially. It very much looks like now that Sam Darnold's been traded away at 2, and that's the other thing. And the timing of this Mac Jones news came right after the Jets basically relinquished any chance that they were going to trade the number 2 pick.
Right? I heard a theory behind that, by the way. You know what it was?
Okay, so I'll take your theory in a minute. But Jets tossed Sam Darnold for a couple of picks. He goes to Carolina. Pretty interesting move in itself. They're taking a quarterback at 2. They need a quarterback. They're at number 2. They're taking a quarterback at 2. Now it's either Fields or Wilson, because Trevor is pretty much already making reservations to go to Jacksonville. So as soon as that news happened, as soon as that occurred, and it was okay, Jets are locked in at a quarterback, and it's either Fields or Wilson. Here comes we're picking Mac Jones at 3. Again, we don't have anything to hide. We know what's happening pretty much at 1 and 2. We're picking Jones at 3. We don't need to dodge. And that timing is significant, and it's a real thing. What's your theory about New York? I don't want to lose that one.
It was that Shanahan was doing the whole we never talked to the Jets about trading up to 2 thing in order to help, which of course they did, but that Shanahan was insisting, we never talked to the Jets, in order to give some sort of plausible deniability that they would actually keep Darnold, because keeping Darnold would, or at least the threat of keeping Darnold would somehow inflate his trade value enough to get 3 picks out of him. when
Yeah,
everybody knew they were going
cut.
to take quarterback.
Yeah, they didn't want to cut their legs out. That's a really good point. And they didn't. And, we could talk about Darnold and his value all day, but we've got some other super chats stacking up. Bottom line is Darnold pulled 3 picks. Trubisky signed as a free agent for $2 million. So
as for Mac at 3, neither one of us would do it, but it's looking likely that it's gonna happen.
Yeah, and if Mac ends up in Chicago, especially at 20, I'm totally cool with it. If they trade a whole bunch of crap to get up to like 8 to get Mac, I'm not cool with it. And it's all about the opportunity cost.
Yeah. What was your first big miss? Plus, have you ever watched rugby? I love rugby.
Yeah, second part first, yes.
The Amazon show on the All Blacks is phenomenal, by the way. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's so damn good. Yeah, especially like high level, because America's not like a major player in the rugby game, but like high level rugby, like Tonga and New Zealand, and like those are what's fun to watch. Not like intramural Kelsey at Fullerton rugby, but what was my first big miss?
First big miss, like draft miss?
Probably Christian. I mean, in terms of like videos that I put out, probably Christian Hackenberg for me.
Oh,
I was all in on Christian Hackenberg.
Yeah. I did a video thing. I've missed a lot. I've been doing this a while. Everybody that's in this business has missed a lot. That's if you hit, it's like baseball. If you hit 30, 35%, you're killing it. You hit 350 in the bigs, you're doing great. Wow, I've missed a bunch. I was sure this isn't the biggest. This is just one of the more recent. The year the Bears drafted David Montgomery, I was sure that they wanted explosiveness. I was absolutely positive that the Bears were feeling like they were lacking explosive plays, especially in the run game, and that they wanted somebody that had some lightning. So I was all about Darrell Henderson. That was my guy. And turns out they didn't want that. They wanted a Kareem Hunt clone. And so they went and got David Montgomery. They traded up to do it, which is, again, I wouldn't have done it. Montgomery's a fine player. Didn't think he'd be available even when they did trade up for him. But I was so sure. I mean, I was just like sure in my core that they wanted speed at the running back position, that they wanted some flash. And nope, was dead wrong.
Did they still have Jordan Howard at the time?
No, Howard was on his way out, and that angered.
They had somebody, but I can't remember.
Yeah, that angered many Bears fans. They were like, "Why are we getting rid of Jordan Howard?" But if you watch the run game, you know.
Well, you're getting rid of Jordan Howard because you got Jordan Howard in the 5th round.
Yeah,
which shows how easy it is to get guys like Jordan Howard.
Yeah, and he wasn't super. From an analytical point of view, and I'm not a huge analytics guy, but I don't dismiss it either. I think the two meld together, player evaluation, tape, and analytics, and seeing the effectiveness. And Jordan Howard didn't really provide that for the Bears in the way that he should have. And hence at his other stops, it's kind of like Trubisky, getting a backup job. Like when everybody else, they're like, Jordan Howard's going to kill it. And Jordan Howard didn't kill it anywhere else. He had that flash his rookie year because John Fox is John Fox and loves to just pound it. And Jordan Howard was a pounded guy. I like Jordan Howard, but everybody was convinced he was a number one feature back. And that was not Jordan Howard. Used to play rugby.
I loved him. I thought he was a really good running back on inside zone.
Yeah.
But if you're not an inside zone team, which the Bears have been slowly trying to get more and more to outside zone, totally different kind of scheme there. Like similar sort of kind of, but it's read differently. You need different physical skill set. Like he wasn't.
Yeah, if you need Jordan Howard to get to the edge consistently, he's not
his thing. Alexander Strong for $5. Not draft related, but do you think the 17th game could be a stepping stone to an 18-game, 40-team NFL?
Yeah, eventually that's going to take a while, but they're not. They're going to be locked at 32 shit. Because they like the balance. They like the 4 divisions of 8 teams.
Can you fucking imagine though?
Oh yeah, no, it's international expansion. We were just talking about this on Twitter. We were talking about Germany and Albert Breer's report that there may be a game in Germany in the fall of 2022, and neither one of us is very surprised by that. Bootleg fans around the world, by the way, welcome international bootleg fans. You guys have been very popular topic of conversation this week. But Brett has a huge fan base in Germany. A lot of that pulls over to Bootleg as well. Some of our podcast numbers were as good in Germany as they're basically the third country is Germany, which is pretty amazing. But the viewership in Germany outstrips per capita the US viewership of the NFL. So international growth and interest, we have tons of fans in Brazil, is peaking, it's cresting. And could you see expansion? You could. Problem is always logistics. It still takes a while to get people places, so you kind of have to take a team there and then have them play 2 or 3 games within that whatever foreign division and then have them come back, because transatlantic, it's still enough hours that it really messes with athletes' systems. So stepping stone to 18 is going to take a while. 40 is going to take even longer because it's going to be hard. It's kind of like the U.S. breaking out of the 50th state thing. Like Puerto Rico should probably be a state. D.C. should probably be a state, but it's like everybody's like 50. It's a nice round number, 50. And same with 32. 32 is just everything's evened up. They did the divisional realignment and it's all kind of set. And to start adding things in and tipping that balance is going to be that's going to take a bit.
I could absolutely see Toronto and Mexico City each getting teams within the next 20 years, though.
Oh, for sure.
Because when I look at my analytics, like just from my analytics, and this is going to sound conceited as fuck, and I apologize. So like my YouTube channel, outside of like the actual league channels, is the largest football related channel that I've found on YouTube. Mm-hmm. Like in terms of like dedicated to analysis, the largest one that I know of at just under 300,000 subscribers. 65% of my audience is American. The other 35% is foreign. A lot of it British, a lot of it Canadian, a lot of it Mexican and German. Brazil, I think, is like 7th around there. Yeah. So like it's gonna happen. There's gonna be a Mexican team and a Canadian team just because of like similar time zones, everything like that. It's gonna happen. Yeah. I don't know but sometime in the next 2 decades.
Did you keep the one about the alpha wide receiver from way back in the beginning? Anyways, I saw the question. I forget who asked it. They said, is there an alpha wide receiver that's not being billed as a number 1 in this draft? And it said like Terrace Marshall. And yeah, Philip Lindsay to GOAT. Thank you very much. And yes, Terrace Marshall, I think I've compared him to AJ Brown. I think he could have an AJ Brown like impact and, maybe not in year 1, but there are guys. And I was doing a project yesterday and it had me digging in even deeper. I'd already done 25 wide receivers and I looked at like the next 20, just highlights, stats, physical profiles, specifically RAS, relative athletic score. And this class is ridiculous. Like the bottom 20 guys, you could make 4 or 5 teams worth of wide receivers out of. It's insane. So yeah, Terrace Marshall is one to watch. He's probably going to go first round. If he doesn't, somebody's going to get a steal in the second round. All right, let's start.
I was watching. Speaking of Terrace Marshall, I was watching Surtain's 2019 game against Bama. Because I was like, okay, those are the best receivers that he went up against, like regardless of 2020 versus 2019. Like, let's see how he did against Jamar and Jefferson, and he was on Marshall for most of the game, and Marshall gave him some back.
You're talking about LSU.
LSU, yeah. Like, and he worked in the slot, he worked outside, and he played the Jefferson role almost exclusively this past year. But in the previous year, he was outside and inside, mostly outside because Jefferson was mostly inside. He's really, really good. Like, route running.
He's my dude.
Ball skills. Yeah, he's
like
really
up
good.
High, not in the top 4 or 5 guys. Like, Marshall's my dude. Like, if I have to go to that sort of second tier, if you give me Terrace Marshall and Tamorian Terry in Chicago, like, I'm good.
You're set.
I'm good.
Set. Yeah, you're good. Considering Seattle wants Wilson to be happy, what man in the trench should they go with their second rounder? Let me look at who their offensive line is now because they've made some changes.
Well, they brought back Posick at center, but if that hadn't happened, let's just do a what if. I would really like to see Creed Humphrey as a Seahawk. Like,
yeah, because Humphrey's just flat out better than Posick. Gabe Jackson's good at right guard.
Oh yeah.
Let's see. Dwayne can still hold it down at left tackle for at least another year or two.
I think
Damian
right
Lewis at
tackle
left
might be the
guard.
spot though for the Hawks. I was just talking with
Mhm.
Brandon Schultz, our buddy who runs the Field Goals podcast. I was on, came out yesterday. We were talking about cornerbacks, but before we started recording, we were talking about offensive line, and really feels like right tackle might be the spot. And again, Dwayne Brown is not necessarily going anywhere. He's still healthy. Out at right tackle, Brandon Shell's okay, but there's going to be guys in the second round that have certainly a higher ceiling, if not a higher floor right now. And that's a value. Like if they really want, as you suppose, to keep Wilson happy with putting a better line in front of him, right tackle would be a nice lineup of need and value in the second round for Seattle.
Yeah, they're going to have to trade up for it. But if I was them, I would be happy to move up. I don't even know how much capital they have left, but if it's even possible.
They only have 3 picks.
Oh, well, fuck. Okay. I mean, I know there's going to be guys, but the thing is, I don't know which ones because I think there could be 10 tackles taken in the first.
Yeah, but the other thing is, depending on how they are, how comfortable they are with Landon Dickerson's medical, he's going to slide. I don't think he's going in the first round. I don't think anybody's comfortable with 4 season-ending injuries. And if they feel like he's together, like it's risky, but you're getting, when we talked to Brandon Thorne, you're getting one of the best players in the draft outside of medical. And medical has to be considered, especially with him. But outside of medical, purely you're getting one of the best offensive linemen in the draft.
I remember reading up on Dickerson literally this morning, actually. And I was like, why was he in college for 5 years when he's it's because he kept ending the year on IR.
Or season-ending injuries. You can't. That's why I'd take Humphrey. It's not that Humphrey's better than Dickerson. Straight up, if they're both healthy, Dickerson's a better player. Like, period. End of story. But if Dickerson's not on the field and Humphrey is, and Humphrey's been an Iron Man at OU, like you take Humphrey. Currently, he's going around 70 in mock draft.
No way.
Yes.
No way.
Yes, he is. He's going around 70. And, the
That's
league.
Criminal.
It is, but he's there, and people are going for wide receivers, tackles. The top 4 corners and some other corners are starting to slip off the board before a guy like Creed Humphrey goes off. And look, Creed Humphrey's going to stand in the middle of your offensive line for 7 or 8 years and just hold it down. So
that's
all right. What else we got?
Phillips Lindsay the GOAT for $5 more. Now that the Panthers have Darnold, is the road open for my Broncos to take Trey Lance? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, if they want to.
They're probably the most likely team unless Detroit does something wild and takes somebody because they only want Goff for like 1 or 2 years while they develop Lance. But because, just running through it, Jacksonville's with Lawrence. Let's just say the Jets are taking Wilson. I guess we'll say the Niners are taking Mac. Atlanta's going to auction off Fields the Broncos might even just trade up for Fields.
They could.
If Fields is there at 4, you move up 5 spots for an extra first rounder, assuming that's the price of a quarterback.
Switch over to Mr. looks like Looper or IOopers, the 1999 super chat, because it's this very issue.
Is it?
It's the same thing. Yep.
Oh.
Ta-da!
Well, we'll answer both questions at once.
See, look at that.
With most teams finding quarterbacks, what do you think of the likelihood? Well, Watson's not going anywhere right now.
Yeah. But
Wilson, I doubt it. At least this year, I doubt Wilson's going anywhere this year. Watson's radioactive. There's no way Watson gets traded.
So I like the Fields idea because, if Fields gets auctioned off at 4, Denver's at what, 9?
Yeah, right? you throw a first rounder in Atlanta, they'll take it because they're not going to get a better deal than that. Yeah,
and there you go. You give them your first rounder now and your first rounder next year, and maybe whatever else you have to do, and you pop up and you get Justin Fields. And like Justin Fields is legitimately better than Locke
by a lot. I mean, just as prospects, like Locke is talented, but
like right now, like you put him in, and he's going to start where Locke's floor is and go up. And there aren't too many quarterbacks that you can say that about. Certainly not in this draft where Denver can get them. So, you know, I don't think that's unlikely. And if they settle for Lance, he's got more work to do. Locke's better, but if you keep Locke, and presumably they would, you can start Locke for the first half of the season. If he's on fire, great. Make it a developmental year for Lance. If he's, you know, just stinking the joint up, bring Lance in game 8, game 9, and see what you got.
And here's the thing with Fields to Denver, which, again, I did not even imagine was a possibility like a couple weeks ago. But let's just run with this whole 49ers are taking Mac Jones thing. You throw some picks in Atlanta, they don't want to be there. They got Matt Ryan for the next couple of years. Like, they have holes to fill. Like, give us picks. And we'll like, that's what they want. They want picks because they missed on some guys. They want to fill holes. You get Justin Fields with Pat Shurmur, who I think is a pretty good developer of young quarterbacks. Agreed. But he still needs some talented people to work with. But I think Pat Shurmur, again, he's not like a Shanahan type coach that like anybody will work with him. But I do think that he does have a knack for getting good things out of young quarterbacks. And it's because he emphasizes a lot of motion. He emphasizes creating one-on-ones. He emphasizes creating favorable personnel matchups. You put him with Justin Fields, and you just spread things out, use a lot of motion so that Fields can see what's going on before and after the snap. And you got Cortland outside with one-on-one. You got KJ just running his ass off in the slot. You got Judy. That, not to mention Fant, the offensive line. I think like it's not complete, but it's not bad.
And they can build
offense, it. And they can build it in this class.
Yep.
That offense would be sick.
Yeah, Fields triggering. We talked about this in our draft preview from last summer about how Denver was building a track team to keep up with KC, and it really came down to whether Locke could trigger that, right? Can he be the trigger man on that track team and put all that talent into play? I think Fields could put a lot of that talent into play, and like Shurmur, like give Fields half read boot action levels. You could run levels, boot action, half field reads with Fields with that offense for the first 5 games and probably win 3 of them.
Yeah, because you're going to have, okay, here's KJ as your alert for the go. Here's Cortland, who's basically uncoverable on deep overs because he's so big. You got Judy working an option route underneath, or even just like, if it's a boot, it'll probably be like a whip or something like that, which he's ridiculous at because he's so quick. And then, oh, by the way, we got Fant going the other way on Leak.
Yeah, and Fant's
who runs
Fant's your Leak. Use Fant on Leak, going the opposite way, and like
it's sick. Oh, it would be so good. Alex Hartley for $5. Which offensive player in this draft do you think would pair up best with Jalen Hurts and the Eagles? Well, I want somebody who's different than Jalen Reagor. Meaning, I want somebody with catch radius. I want somebody who's like just going to stick outside, go beat up on press corners. 12? Here's the thing. Okay, this is going to sound crazy because I know 170 pounds is not somebody that maybe would be your typical X receiver that plays outside and beats up on press corners. But again, I was watching all these corners over the last week because I'm doing an episode on corners, and I was watching JC Horn 2019, who is, I think, the best pure press corner in this draft, against Devontae Smith almost exclusively for an entire game in 2019. And Devonta Smith's ability to beat press coverage, even at 170 pounds, is unbelievable. Like, he is so slippery off the line. People say, oh, he's so light, he'll get jammed like crazy. You can't touch him. You cannot touch him off. Like, this is JC Horn, who is a Jalen Ramsey level athlete with 33-inch arms, could not touch him off the line. So you can't press what you can't touch. And his catch radius is phenomenal, despite his size. Like, he is an X receiver. He's the smallest X receiver I've ever seen, but he is an X receiver. And his skill set is way different than Jalen Reagor, which is why I think he'd be perfect for Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, we got to stop saying despite his size, because this is something all of us that watch the draft know. There are big guys that play like little guys. And there are little guys, and there are little guys that play way bigger than their weight or strength or whatever else. And if you watch Devonta Smith, he does everything that a player at his position needs to do and more. Like Saban uses starters on special teams, and Devonta Smith was a gunner on special teams. If you thought that Saban thought he was frail, you don't put that guy at gunner on special teams. And he was there and he was lighting people up. He was knocking people out of bounds. I don't care what he weighs. That guy's a dog. He plays with grit, right? And everybody's, despite his size, he catches everything. He runs amazing routes. You can't touch him. He's physical at the catch point with those long arms. Like everybody's like, he's light. He must not be able to catch. He's light. He must not be able to block. He's light. He must not be able to prep. He does all that stuff. It's not despite his size. It's look at the tape. Look how they used him. There aren't concerns about his strength, his durability, his ability to be pressed, his ability to catch the ball over the middle. Like he does all that stuff on tape over and over again against the best competition that college football has to offer in the SEC week after week. He won the Heisman. He had an amazing season. I mean, Heisman does not guarantee anything for draft status, but he won it for a reason. It was production. And production does matter to NFL scouts.
I look at it this way. The two best press corners in the draft, J.C. Horn and Patrick Surtain. J.C. Horn could barely even touch him off the line. And Patrick Surtain has said that Devonta Smith is the hardest guy he's ever had to cover, and he had to cover him every day in practice. If the two best press corners in the draft that are both probably going to be Pro Bowl talents are telling you this guy can beat press, believe them.
Yeah, and they're both top 15 picks.
They're both top 15 picks.
Yep.
And they're both like super long, big, physical, heavy. Like they're bigger and longer than the vast majority of corners in the league, and they can't press Devonta Smith. You think most press corners in the league are going to be able to press Devonta Smith with less length and less athleticism than those guys? There's a few that can, like, obviously, Jalen Ramsey, but like, if your reason for not drafting Devonta Smith is, well, Jalen Ramsey could cover him. Like, no shit, Jalen Ramsey can cover everybody. But like the vast majority of press corners can't cover the guy, so you might as well take him. I think he's perfect at 12. Richard for $5. A lot have been made of opt-outs, but how do you guys eval play regression?
Yeah.
How much might be because of COVID uncertainty or short offseason like Shaun Wade or Tamarian Terry? So Tamarian Terry was hurt. He was playing through injury the whole year. He had a knee, I think it was a meniscus that he was playing through, and then he got cleaned up and he missed a couple games, then came back and it was still bothering him. That was more injury than anything else. Shaun Wade, I think, was just miscast as like the next great corner to come out of Ohio State because he played at Ohio State. People were scouting the helmet with him, kind of like how people scout the helmet with Fields and say, it was an Ohio State quarterback, he's not going to be any good. People were looking at Shaun Wade and saying, well, he's an Ohio State corner, of course he's going to be good. And it's like, well, they're not all the same. Like, just because they had a run of first rounder after first rounder doesn't mean the next guy's also going to be a first round quality player. So I think that was just people kind of letting the hype take over. But then when Shaun Wade like actually had to go against real NFL receivers, he got torched. Like, he's a slot. He's not an outside corner in the NFL. I think people just, you disagree?
No, I might go farther and say he's like a star. He's like,
you might not even want him as a full-time corner.
I think he could get there, but I'm not picking him anywhere near the top.
Star meaning the position, not like, he's a star.
Correct. That's a great clarification for everybody listening at home. Star is the Saban ease for third DB, jack of all trades, kind of slot corner, kind of safety, floater, guy that comes in on dime, does it all, just kind of all over. Straight up slot, he's going to get ripped in the NFL. There's a lot of good slots that he can't handle. Like, especially
big slots, like Michael Pittman.
Big slots, he's going to get crushed.
Kill him. So, like Michael Pittman versus most slot corners, it's a bad matchup for the.
But in terms of regression, it's a good question, Richard. And it's not so much regression as it is lack of progression. Nothing sort of hones a player like going, iron sharpens iron, that thing, going against other high level players, learning, going through film, seeing what you screwed up, going out the next week, trying to win against all these other guys that are going to get drafted. Guys that didn't have that just lack that. It's not that they backslid or that they got fat or anything else. It's not that. It's that they didn't have a year of experience. Now, the plus side is they don't have a year of wear on their bodies, which is significant when you're talking about like Alabama went to the national championship, played a bunch of extra games against high level competition, got the hell beat out of them. That's a thing. Like there is a finite number of plays in every player's body. So they're more well rested, but they didn't get that last year of development. We didn't get to see that. So I wouldn't call it regression. It's just uncertainty about where are they. And I don't know about you, but I've hit a ton of these guys this year. I was on a good 2 or 3 week stretch where lots of guys I was watching played in 2020 and a few didn't. And then this last week, like it seemed like every other guy I went to was like, oh, he didn't play this year. Okay, got to go back to the 2019 tape. And it just, I flip-flopped a lot this last week on those guys. So I don't hold it against them, but you just don't have as much information. It's kind of like Trey Lance. He played one game this year. That's not that, he has an amazing freshman year, comes out, plays one game, and then kind of declares for the draft and says, forget it, because North Dakota State pushed their season off to the spring. We don't know. We don't know if he would have got better, if he would have matched that, if it would have been worse. Like,
especially like Big Ten guys, where it's like you're getting max 6 games out of them. If they get hurt halfway through the 6-game season, even if it's a minor injury, like you might get 3 games. Like Cam McGrone played 1 healthy game against Minnesota the first week of the season. He was hurt the rest of the year.
Well, the other guy that I came up to, this is 2 weeks ago when I was doing, ostensibly corners, Israel Mukuamu, big corner from South Carolina. And I saw him last year. I made notes about him last year as a corner. I was like, damn, who's this guy?
When I was going through JC Horn against Bama, I
was like, this dude's physical as hell. Like, this guy.
I thought amazing. He was a safety.
Well, they moved him to safety because he struggled with injury this year. He played mostly deep safety for South Carolina this year, and he had very few reps right up at the line. And he looked terrible. Like, he's not a safety, but the few reps where he got to go up, like be a big slot press guy, just murdered guys. And I was like, put him on the line. Let him use that huge frame and press people. He's physical. Do not put him 15 yards off the ball and ask him to float. That's not his role. So there's a lot of weird stuff about college scouting. We could spend.
Did you see that rep against Bama, by the way, where he takes on the blocker on the swing screen and this is Bama. And he just drives like 10 yards back, and he's like, nope, you're going this way. Oh, yeah. He's
an amazing press corner, but you put him in space, and he doesn't look very good.
No, he's Brandon Browner, maybe. Well, partially. Not all the way Brandon Browner. We don't want him to be all the way Brandon Browner.
You never go all the way Brandon Browner.
Moving on before I get in trouble.
Yeah.
For £5?
Yes, 5 pounds, 5 British pounds.
Brown Death Mouse, Bengal fan from the UK. What do you think the Bengals should do at 5? I'm leaning towards Chase over Sewell and O-line in round 2. I'm kind of leaning that way too, just because I was thinking through my head, and maybe this is coming off bias because, again,
it's so much better than thinking through your other body parts.
Like, maybe I'm biased because I was just watching Surtain against that 2019 LSU team, and I got to see Jamar Chase just absolutely take Trayvon Diggs to the woodshed, and I felt so bad for him. But just kind of getting that refresher again on Chase, where I'm like, man, that dude's different. And so it's like, what package would you rather have? Jamar Chase at 5, and then maybe like an Eichenberg, a Cosme, or a Christensen, either at the top of round 2, or if tackles are flying off the board, you trade up into the back of 1 to get that 5th-year option and just make sure you get the guy. Like, would you rather have Chase and one of those guys, or would you rather have Sewell and what receiver is going to be there at the top of round 2? That's like, Bateman's not going to be there. Marshall's not going to be there. They don't need Elijah Moore.
No, Marshall could be there at the top of round 2. There's no I don't think he will. I don't think he should be, but he may be. Again, there's only 32 spots, and we have entered that period in the draft calendar where there are 60 first-round picks. Twitter right now, there are 60 first-round picks. This guy is an absolute lock to go in the first round. He physically can't. There are only 32 picks. You can't fit them all in. So somebody's going to slide. And it happens every year, and it usually happens from about 22 to 32. There's a couple in the top where you're like, what are they doing? And then 22 to 32 is dealer's choice, right? It's people trading into the back end of the first round to get the fifth-year option. It's people going, well, I don't really need the fifth best receiver. I'll take the best center because that's what I need. And everybody's like, center over blank. Well, they don't need the other thing. It's all about teams and needs and where they fit. And that back end of the first round really determines. There will absolutely be 4 or 5 names easy in the first round. You're like, I never thought they'd go in the first round. Happens every single year. Every year. Teams take somebody you didn't think was a first rounder. So Marshall could be one of those guys. And when that happens, guys get pushed down. Marshall could be one of those guys.
I still, again, just looking at what they have.
Yeah.
Like, I think Jonah's fine at left tackle. Reef at least gives you something at right tackle. I think their problem's more on the interior than at either of the tackle spots. And we all know that guard is a lot easier to get like value on day 2.
Yeah.
Like that's a sweet spot. I would lean towards Chase and then just best available offensive lineman day 2 and like just both second and third round. I think they have second and third round picks. Just smash best available O-line, put your best 5 out there. Chris Kinsman, I want to hit this one real quick. First of all, thank you for the £2. As they're never loved, top 5 kickers in this draft. I have not watched them, full disclosure.
Wrong live stream, man. We are not a specialist live stream. We get into some gunners and a couple of return specialists. We do not do kickers and punters, and it's just not something we spend our time on. They are absolutely valuable, but in terms of NFL value, especially for punters, and I know you're talking about kickers, you pick up 2 punters off the street, you let them fight, and you give one of them a minimum contract. That's what you do in the NFL. Like, yeah,
you throw a piece of bread on the ground, and
whoever comes out with bread in their stomach wins the job. Yeah. Anyways, there was one. All right, who's likely to whiff through New England or Philly or Green Bay?
What a cynical question.
No, I love the second one. What is the hardest you've ever laughed at a reach in the draft? Just caveat. We talked about Daniel Jones. I have never laughed, screamed, held my head as hard as Mina Kimes did when Daniel Jones went to the Giants because she was on, I think it was a Bleacher Report live stream at the time. She was, I don't know.
Yeah, I've seen it though.
They all lost their minds, and I lost my mind too, but not that hard. I've gotten
Clelin Ferrell at 4th overall. I actually howled.
Well, yeah. Yeah, no, I've howled a lot. There've been a lot. Like I said, there's 4 or 5 players that end up in every first round. And you're like, what?
When the Patriots took N'Keal Harry over DK Metcalf, I wasn't even laughed. I was just
gobsmacked.
I was blank. I was like, there's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way they just did that. But yeah, always entertainment when New England's on the clock.
Yeah, New England past the 3rd round is I always put the over on New England picking the first guy that I've never heard of in the draft, and it's usually a 3rd round safety.
See, what's funny is the last one I can remember that they did that where like people just genuinely didn't know what to say because nobody watched him was Deron Harmon. He ended up being a really good pick.
Yeah, Deron Harmon was good, but no, New England is famous for picking the first guy that like NFL Networks does not have a graphic or any information for, so they like literally put up like the blank egg Abby kind of thing. Yeah, it's hilarious. There was one about how we choose to scout maybe 2 questions ago. Like, I think that's a fascinating question, so I'm gonna cherry pick that one. It says, how do you guys choose to scout? It's from JG, I think. Anyways, I'll scroll back and find it because I think that's a really good question.
I'm kind of jumping all over the place here with the ones.
Yeah, this is JG81, 3:38 p.m. Thank you for the $5. How do you guys choose who to scout? Do you look at a list of draft eligible players, or do you scout everyone by position? It's a little bit of both. I don't know how you organize your work because that always fascinates me, but that's like draft nerd minutia. So I've got a couple of things open. I've got a database that's put together of draft eligible players that is updated. And then I've got a sheet. I just call it my sheet. It's my draft sheet. And I go by position, offense through defense, 2021. I put in name. I go last name first, school. And then I put in a note about why they're there. Like a lot of guys don't have notes. Trevor Lawrence, no note. Everybody knows why he's there. But especially as I get down into the 20s in a position like, hey, another analyst said this guy was amazing, or somebody on the draft live stream told me to look up. We looked up Jonathan Adams Jr. in the Senior Bowl stream because somebody was like, have you seen this receiver from Arkansas or Central Arkansas or Arkansas State, whichever Arkansas he's part of? I'm not buying the hat, by the way. It was supposed to be here today. That's an inside joke. I said that Jordan Love went to Nevada. That, of course, is Colin Kaepernick. He went to Utah State, so I bought a Utah State hat. I'll wear that on a future podcast. But I've got my list by position. I just put everybody in there, and I start that list the day after the draft. I'll start my 2022 list literally the day after the draft starts. I'll open up a new sheet in Google Docs, and I'll start filling in names. And it can come from preseason top 100 lists. It can come from, hey, I scouted this guy in 2021 and he wasn't eligible. Looks like he might make the list. And then both of those lists change all the time. This year, the draft eligible list changed a ton. Guys going back to school, guys opting out of COVID, guys picking up their 6th year of eligibility, which is weird. I don't even have a code for 6th year of eligibility, but they have it now. As a redshirt senior. What is that? And then I've got a database that I put together in Google Docs that fills out a Google sheet. And that's I enter them in. I've got a little form for that. Position, name. The typing it in actually helps me remember and sort of weld names to schools and positions because, look, you're talking about 200 to 300 guys every year. And a lot of them are named Marshall and Smith and Jones. And you forget. And I've taken to making notes in when I watch film because I have an individual sheet for each guy that I fill out the notes on. That goes in the database as well, but I fill out a Google sheet for that so I can look those up individually really quickly. And I'll put the note of who it is if I make a note about somebody else. So I'm watching Pat Surtain. He played against, Joey Burrow, right? And I'll say, Joe Burrow, quarterback LSU. And you might be like, how are you ever going to forget Joe Burrow? Believe me, you can do it. A year later, and you're talking about people outside like the top 10, and you'll forget. You'll forget what those names are. So, and then I go through, and it's like, I'll try and take a chunk of about 10 players at each, and I want to watch at least one game on those 10 players at every position. You're talking about 15, 16 positions. That's like 150, 60 players right there. And that's the core of the draft. Those are the guys that are going to go in the first 3 rounds. And then I'll fill in after that. And sometimes I got on a roll with wide receivers this year. I went 22 deep. I went straight to 22. I didn't do the top 10 because that was impossible to figure out this year. There's way too much depth at wide receiver, and I went straight to 22. Other positions, I haven't dug deeply into safety yet. I've watched like 5 safeties. I gotta fill that part out. I'm working my way through. I just finished defensive tackles this weekend. I've already done outside linebackers, corners. I've done top like 8 or 9 tackles, top 8 or 9 guards, 22 wide receivers, probably 10 quarterbacks. I've done no running backs because for those of you that don't know me, I save running backs until the end, and I do a big running back palooza blowout because I love scouting running backs, and it's my carrot on the stick to get me through all the late nights of film and whatever else. So I'm very close to starting running backs. I did edge players. I'm probably 18, 20 deep on those guys. So I really have safety left to do, and some of the defensive end guys, the classic sort of 4-3-5 tech guys. I've got to fill in some depth at interior offensive line and tackles for the guys down the board. There's a lot of good ones, man. There's a lot of good guys and tackles.
Million of them.
And there's guys that you're going to take in the 4th round that are like starter capable. Guys like Stone Forsythe from Florida.
Have you got to who's the Nebraska kid who's at
James?
the Super Bowl?
That's the second one I was going to bring up. Brennan James.
Good.
He's
just did him this
really
week.
good. So you've got Brendan James from Nebraska. You've got Spencer Brown from Northern Iowa, who's a physical freak. He scored a 10 out of RAS. That makes him the top tackle in the last, 18 years, 17 years?
35.
Yeah. So, I mean, ridiculous. This class from
a sub 7.3 cone.
No.
A sub 7.3 cone for a 6'8" tackle is like
6'8".
impossible.
Yeah. It's not even funny. Hudson, I'm down on a little bit. I was up on his tape, but his measurables are not great. Walker Little, a lot of people talk about out of Stanford. He's injured. He's probably the best pure pass setter in this class. And again, there's a question of injury and where is he now? But you look at his tape when he was healthy, he's probably the best pure pass setter in this class. He's one of the top 3. Brady Christensen is wildly underrated from BYU. If your team runs wide zone and you take Brady Christensen, you are going to profit.
Yep.
Period. He's amazing. Yep. And he's available late. That guy's available at like 135, 115.
No,
he is
top 50. Top 50. I know what the mock drafts are telling you.
We'll see.
I know what the mock drafts are telling you.
He's
not a top 50 pick.
It's not just that. Again, there's only 50 picks in the top 50, and you're telling me there's not 50 other.
I'm just saying there was 31 teams at the BYU Pro Day. They were not all there to look at Zach Wilson.
No, they have tons of players. Brady Christensen is wildly underrated no matter where he goes. So, anyways, that's how I do it. I've got my sheet. I've got my database that other people put together in terms of who's draft eligible, and I rely on that a lot because I don't have time to do all that research. I don't have time to go, did this guy opt in? Did he opt out? Is he in? And I'll reach out to the people that put it together and say, hey, and that's one of the reasons they let me have access to it is because I troubleshoot their database for them. I'm like, where's this guy? And they're like, oh yeah, I forgot to put that guy in, or oh, he opted in, he opted out. We had a question the other day about Jackson Player, the Tulsa defensive tackle, the guy that played in, and neither one of us knew the answer. So I reached out and I said, is this guy in or is he out? Did he opt back in? Did he opt back out? Like this year has been crazy for that. So I have that. I have my sheet. I have the database that I dump guys into and put my reports in that organizes. And again, I'm going to try and get 10 of each position, and then I'm going to fill in the depth as much as I can. Running backs, I would do 35 every year if I could, but I usually end up doing about 20, 25.
My method is I want to do at least like the first 7 or 8 guys of a position group all in the same day, because I want to have fresh eyes for what each one looks like compared to the other. Like if I can compare, like I did, for instance, this past week, I did Surtain and Horn back to back in like a marathon session. And I really like Surtain. And I had only done one game of Horn. I only did the Florida game at that point, like as like a preamble, like back in, I don't know, late February or something like that. So I did all of Surtain's games that I needed to do. And then I immediately went into the other 4 games of Horn. And I finished it off with the Auburn game, which I don't know if you've watched JC Horn versus Auburn this year, but holy fuck. That was one of the most impressive individual corner performances from a draft prospect I've seen in a long time. And you can see, even among elite corner prospects, the fact that I did Surtain and Horn back-to-back, there's a difference in movement skills. There's just a flat-out difference. So I like doing them all at the same time from a same position group so I can just get fresh eyes on the
that part's really important. Guys that skip around and do like a defensive tackle and a wide receiver and a running back,
you get no context. Yeah.
You got to watch them, at least a bunch of them together for the same position, because you will get, like Brett said, I got to start pointing this way. I keep pointing that way. Anyways, you'll get to the point where you watch 4 guys and you watch the 5th guy and you're like, whoa, I didn't see that from any of the other 5 guys. And these are, again, 5 out of the top 10 guys. Like, that's different. That is best in class agility, best in class ball vision, best in class whatever. Like, you'll see that burst with wide receivers. You don't want to watch a wide receiver and then watch a tight end and then watch a running back and try and compare burst. You want guys, especially if you could do it like outside receivers and inside receivers, or outside corners and slot corners, that's even better. Penetrating defensive tackles and run stopping defensive tackles. You don't want to be watching like a flashing 3-tech and then go watch Tyler Shelvin, who weighs like 360. It's just, you're going to be like,
if he starved himself for a week. He'd be
you don't want to do that. It's just hard on the eyes. It's hard on your head to think back to a week ago. Again, you're cycling through so much information, so many guys, so many play styles, so many games that you really want to kind of do apples to apples, at least in chunks. And sometimes you do. I need to freshen it up. I got bogged down super hard in corners this year because it was all 22. You can't really get a good idea of cornerback play from TV tape, and all 22 on a corner it's a 45 to 55 minute tape. And if you're watching, 15 corners in a row, you're talking about, 18 to 20 hours worth of work, just straight.
You get more accurate grades out of it, but they take longer.
And you get really glazed. All right, we got a $20 super chat sitting up there.
Well, let me get to these on the banners first.
Okay.
They disappeared
hit it.
So I got to do these first. This is I think about the previous question. All the American fans would have a perfect excuse to cry Mickey Mouse ring when a team they don't. Oh, that's funny. I like that.
It's so true though. It's like Canadian hockey fans when quote unquote US teams win. Yeah.
I'm sorry, but a divisional game every single year in Azteca in Mexico City would be the craziest sports environment I've ever been in my life. And I don't care. Like I don't care if there's Mickey Mouse stuff going on. Like I want that environment in the NFL because it's wild down there. Same thing with like if you go play in like Bayern Munich Stadium. Oh my God, I want it. I want it bad. Thoughts on the Packers balancing Aaron Jones and Dylan? Why bring Jones back when Dylan seemed to be the lead back for the future? Because they're different styles. They just complement each other.
Yeah. If you think Dylan is as good as Jones, he's not.
Okay. I thought you said it's not true that they're different styles. It's like, I don't know.
No. I'm saying from the question asking perspective, you really do have two different backs there. Dylan has a ton of speed. He doesn't have a ton of cuts. He has big power when he hits people because he's a big guy that plays pretty big. He's not a big guy that plays huge like Derrick Henry. Aaron Jones is much more multiple and versatile and skilled overall than Dylan is. You'd see a drop off if Dylan was there and Jones wasn't. Like Dylan cannot do all the things that Aaron Jones does. So
Jones is the guy that's going to get them the lead. Dylan's this guy that's just going to keep the lead and take the punishment, in my opinion.
Yeah, and maybe pop a 75-yarder if you get him an alley, because that's the thing he's good at, right? Get outside. He's huge. One cut that's not too sharp and, head of steam.
It's more of a bend.
Yeah.
It's a banana.
Here's your word of the day. Word of the day, bootleg fans. Curvilinear movement.
There you go. Well, I mean, Derrick Henry's the same way, where it's like, is it the sharpest cut?
But who's like that in this draft?
Who?
The running back from OSU.
Serban.
No.
Is that no. Master
Oregon
T?
State. Sorry, Oregon State. My bad.
I haven't got to him yet.
Yeah. Anyways, he runs in half circles. He's not a sharp cut guy, but he's truly effective. It's crazy. He just starts earlier and vectors away from guys, and it works.
Like that. It's like that
a different
Family
style.
Guy clip. He's listing lazily to the left. We can't hit him. I don't buy Mac at 3. Niners FO have leaked none of their recent big moves. Defoe trade up to 3. Trent, Ayuk, etc.
Oh, Fields versus Lance. I would take Fields. If they don't take Mac, I would take Fields. It's not even close for me. But
yeah, I would take Fields. He's more accurate. I think they're both similar physical talents, but I think Fields is just further along. He's more experienced. He's a more accurate thrower of the football. They both have incredible arms. They're both super mobile. They both work really hard. It's just I think Fields and Lance in like 4 years are going to be similar levels, but I think Fields is just further along in the process,
and he's going to get there sooner. Hopefully.
He's going to get there sooner. I just prefer Fields. Again, I like Lance a lot.
However, if I need somebody to run somebody over, I'm taking Lance all day in a landslide.
I was trying to think of like who he reminds me of because like he's plays physically.
You know who?
Are you going to say Big Ben on steroids? Because that's where I was going.
No. Big Ben could never run like Lance does. Lance runs
Cam?
Lance runs like Dylan does when he runs. McNair.
Ooh, that's a good because McNair had a gun.
Yeah,
he could run really well,
and he didn't come in as a thrower. The whole Alcorn State thing, like he would gun it, but he was not. He became a passer when he came to the league. He was a thrower, and he became a passer.
I like that.
Yeah, Lance is already farther along as a passer. That's just because the game has changed and you have to be to get to that level. But watch him run, man. He'll run people over. He's physical. He's built. He's not going to avoid. Like Fields is just going to outrun him at 4.40 or 4.4. Like he'll just outrun him and then he'll scoot out of bounds. And good for him. Save the punishment. Lance will run guys over. Like
if you pin Lance to the sideline, you better be ready for.
He's going to bury
an altercation.
He's going to drop his shoulder and. And he's big enough to do it. He's built very solidly. And that was the other thing is McNair was he was not wispy in any way. Like McNair was a block. He was a solidly built football player.
Yeah, he's a thick. McNair was what I think people hoped Vince Young would eventually be, but just different level of talent.
Yeah, VY was faster, straight up faster. But
Andrew Hernandez for $5.
Tevin and Richie Grant. Sure, I would love that.
I mean, that's a dream for them.
Yeah.
You get a future Pro Bowl tackle.
Well, it's one guy from our offensive gems list and one guy from our defensive gems list. So 2 out of 20. Like, you got 10%.
Who's their let me look at who their starting safeties are right now.
Abram.
Legitimately.
Abram, who I really loved and had high hope for and has just not, he just does dumb stuff. Well,
they got Jeff Heath, who's depth.
I loved Abram, though. Abram, somebody asked earlier about misses. I loved Abram. I loved him, and he's not hit the path early. I thought he would be better. He was amazing in college. I loved him.
The physical skills are still there. It's just
but he hasn't put it together. He does dumb stuff.
Instincts and coverage never got there. It's unfortunate it never really developed. I mean, maybe Gus. The fact that they're running a system this year under Gus, which theoretically should be, simpler for him to pick up. Maybe. Right. But either way, Richie Grant, free safety for them. Tevin Jenkins, a future Pro Bowl right tackle, is perfect. Absolutely perfect. All right. Jack Hunter for £5. As much as it kills me because we need a left tackle, both J.C. Horn and Jalen Phillips are on the board at third.
Horn. All day long, Horn.
That's so hard, though.
I know. In terms of, here's the thing. In terms of straight player evaluation, in terms of just Jalen versus JC in a vacuum, I get it. It's like it's really difficult. In terms of the Chargers and the availability of players in this draft, and this is where I go nuts. If you can't tell, this is where I get really teeth through the floorboards and draft nerdy about this stuff, and it's about draft value and team building. And J.C. Horn is better within his position than Jalen is this year in terms of the talent available and what Staley needs. J.C. is Staley's Ramsey. He was just at the Rams, and he wants that guy because if you look at what he did, he was like, Jalen, go do that thing. I'll run the rest of the defense to deal with everything that's left. And he needs that guy, and he does not have him. They've got other defensive linemen. They've got defensive line talent. Now, is Jalen Phillips super talented? Yes. But there is nobody that could have the impact that Horn could have in Staley's system. That's my argument.
I actually agree with you because when you look at, as much as I love Jalen Phillips, when you look at the Chargers corner situation versus their D-line situation, their D-line's in a lot better shape than I think their corner situation is. And
by the way,
Casey Hayward's still a free agent.
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
Put Casey Hayward on the Bears, and I feel a lot better about the offseason right now.
Well, I kind of wonder if he's hurt.
I kind of wonder if he's hurt,
something's going on.
And the other one's KJ Wright. KJ Wright is still a defensive free agent. If you put KJ Wright and Casey Hayward on the Bears defense, I'm giving Pace a lot more slack. And give them both a 1-year deal because they both want to go back into the pool when there's more money next year. Say, hey, come play 1 year. We know you're not going to be here. It's mercenary. It's cool. Casey Hayward and KJ Wright on the Bears, like I would be like, anyways.
I agree with you though on Horn because they need a press corner that can survive on the backside of 3x1 up against KC. KC runs 3x1 as much or more than literally every other team in the NFL.
That's right.
And they will put every single pass target they have on their team as that ISO receiver. It can be Tyreek. At the time when Watkins was there, it could have been Watkins. A lot of the time it's Kelsey. You need a long, big, fast press corner like Jalen Ramsey that can just take on all comers, no matter who's lining up there. Because on the backside of 3x1 in that system, it doesn't matter what the call is. That's man-to-man. That is press man-to-man. You are on your own. We're playing, 6 against 3 in zone everywhere else or whatever it is. So they play zone to the field. They play press man to the boundary. They don't have a guy that can do that role, which is instrumental in making that defense work. They need it. I know they also need left tackle. You're more likely to get that
later.
I was going to say you're more likely to get a left tackle in round 2.
You cannot get a JC Horn later. There are 4 guys in this draft. I would say really 3. 4 at the corner rank. And after I just started doing mock drafts a week ago, I waited until the big San Francisco trade, and then I was like, okay, that's pretty much the landscape. And I started doing mock drafts, and I do 1 or 2 every day just to see how the board falls, just to see how people go. If I do this, what happens? If I go here, is that available later? And the one thing is there's that shelf at corner. If you want a big alpha outside corner, there are 4. And you get one if they're available in the bottom of the first round, or you go to your second tier, which is like 3rd round. And edge rushers tend to last a little bit longer, but finding a guy like Horn later in the draft, you can't do it.
There's only one corner in this draft that has held up and put up good tape against Kyle Pitts, Devonta Smith, Jalen Waddle, Jerry Jeudy, Muggs, Van Jefferson.
It's not Mukuamu.
There's one guy. De'Ami Brown.
See the rep?
You go through the list. The what?
Florida rep, South Carolina. Horns on the other side. They line up Pitts, Isu against Mukuamu, and he runs a slant that Mukuamu has no chance against.
Oh, that one. Yeah.
And literally, Mukuamu looks at Horn across the field, and Horn's on the other side, and they both look at each other and go,
what are you going to do?
Like, it's Pitts, man.
Horn had one against Pitts, too, is the back shoulder fade where he's pressed him. And, I mean, he's on him. Yeah. I mean, it's like he's just holding on for dear life. And Pitts is, like, running a tightrope of, like, 6 inches down the boundary. And Trash throws it back shoulder, and Pitts is just,
yoink.
There's nothing you can do.
No.
And Horn really?
Yeah, Horn and Mukuamu in that end zone rep. If you haven't seen it, go look at it. Like Mukuamu looks at him, like he looks at Horn across the end zone. He's like, "What the hell, man?" And Horn's like, "I want to tell you, man. You're not gonna beat that." Like,
no, it's a freak. It's like losing to Calvin Johnson. It's like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Kyle Ronald for $20. I know the scheme is really important.
Kyle.
Thank you, by the way. I know the scheme is really important for scouting CBs, but I'm not great with that. Which CBs in the draft fit well in man schemes? Speaking of JC Horn, and what do I look for when watching them? Titan scheme, particularly if that matters. So I'll take the lead on this one.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
There's a lot of technical things that go into being. This question's so long, I'm like trying to get above it. There's a lot of things that go into
swim, Brett, swim.
Being a good press man corner. And I'm actually doing a film room on this, so it's apt that I answer it. When you go back and watch Horn, who's I think the best press man corner in this class, like pure press man corner, I think like Surtain, a little bit better zone instincts, but in terms of just I'm lining up and I'm taking away one guy, it's JC Horn. You watch him against 2019 Alabama. He learned a lot of lessons that day going up against 4 future first round receivers that were better than anything that any other corner in all of college football was facing that. Like that was the gauntlet. And he learned a lot of lessons, particularly from Devontae Smith, about how to handle releases, when to wall off inside and really lean into leverage, and when to just, Richard Sherman calls it soft shoeing, where you just kind of let him come to you, you turn and run with it and get hip to hip. He learned a lot about when to get on the low shoulder position of a receiver and trust your safety to hold up over the top. Spoiler alert, ended up in a touchdown. Sometimes you can't trust the safety, to be honest. He learned a lot. He learned a lot about hand placement, particularly with Devonta. Like there's a big thing where a technical detail where if you're running low shoulder, meaning you're kind of behind their shoulder, not in front of their shoulder in trail technique, you put your hand on their shoulder blades so that you can feel when they motor down for a comeback route, and that helps you also break yourself and then come back and mirror. And Devonta Smith, being Devonta Smith, when he breaks down, he ducks so low that his hand was just slipping off his back, and he would lose him and overshoot the route. So then you go back and look at 2020, all of a sudden his hand's lower because he learned, like, hey, if they're breaking down, especially if it's a smaller guy, I need to have my hand lower so that I don't overshoot it. And so you look at the lessons he learned from that 2019 Bama game about hand placement, about leverage, about when to be physical and when to let the receiver come to you, about how to use, about knowing where your safeties are so you know exactly where to put yourself leverage-wise. That's what I think goes into a man corner. It's not just, are you fluid? Can you run? Which is important, but you have to beat a receiver's feet with your hands. If you don't have constant contact on a receiver, especially if they have good feet, you're going to lose them because you can't feel the route. You always have to have your hands on. That was a big lesson that Horn learned. Then you go back and you look at the Florida tape, and he's just beating receivers up. He's always has his hands on because he wants to feel the route. So those are important technical details that I look at in a man corner. Is it's not just, are you physically able? It's how are you using hands and leverage to maximize your physical gifts.
Okay, I have a question. Do I have to pay to get in line?
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Okay,
no,
damn it, because I know you're going to charge me. Watching corners, it struck me that this is a classic question, Kyle. Thank you for it, in terms of scheme and man versus zone, physical skill versus technical detail versus all that stuff. How many guys did you see? I don't know how many guys you did for corner. How many guys did you see that were even average in zone?
Like in terms of like having instincts and knowing where to be?
Just frankly playing any of it. Like college is largely man, right? You see a lot of man, and the zone
I think it
reps
depends
I
on
saw,
conference. I think it depends
it
on
does,
conference.
but zone reps I saw, again, we're talking about probably the top 10 corners in this draft. Zone reps I saw were rough. Like they, zone is, I don't want to say harder to play, but I grew up playing a lot of sports, but the zone man thing always brings me back to basketball. Right. And I grew up in upstate New York, so we played a ton of 2-3 zone because Jim Boeheim at Syracuse 2-3 zone. Right?
That's what they did.
You had to understand 2-3 zone, and there are rules to 2-3 zone, like to play good 2-3 zone, just like football zone. It's not spot drop. Like people think zone is spot drop, and it is not. Spot drop is dead. You can beat spot drop 100 ways. So zone is still covering the guy in your zone, but doing it in a different way than exactly what you said.
It's zone with man principles.
Yeah, exactly. Matching hip, right? Softer, like, and I think of like Kyle Fuller. Kyle Fuller is comfortable in either. He has a very particular way of playing zone, and it's effective for him, but he's good at it. And I see a lot of these corners that I watch. How many guys did you see that you thought were, quote unquote, good in zone? Because I saw a lot of man reps from almost all of them. I feel pretty comfortable about their comfort or their ability in man, but there weren't very many of these guys that I was like, he's real good in zone.
The big thing was eye discipline. Like,
yeah,
because again, I'm going to go back to that Bama LSU game over and over again, because where else are you going to find that many first round DBs against that many first round corners?
Yeah,
you look at the difference in how Surtain, who's really good in zone, plays press bail.
Surtain's one.
Diggs.
Surtain, I put a check mark next to it.
Surtain's one.
This guy can play zone, and he can.
His dad probably taught it to him when he was 5. But
over dinner,
like you look at how, like, when Terrace Marshall would hide in his blind hip when he would go into press bail, because like when you're bailing and you're looking at the corner and the receiver goes outside, let's just say over here's the boundary, and the receiver kind of goes behind your blind hip, you have to then be able to put your arm out and feel it while also keeping eyes on the quarterback. And Surtain would do that on one side and Diggs would do that on the other side against Chase. And Marshall would hide in the hip, Chase would hide in the hip. Diggs would panic and immediately flip his head around and basically do a man turn.
Oh, God.
And it's like, okay, if they're running a comeback, they're going to be open anyway, whether you see it or not. So you better keep your eyes on the quarterback, because Burrow's going to tell you if he's throwing that comeback by fucking looking at it. So it's like, just keep your eyes on the quarterback. And if you need to break down and break on the ball, do it. But some guys panic even when they're in zone, and they'll do a man turn when a guy hides on their hip. And then if you turn around right as they hide on your hip and then they break inside, guess what? You're not going to see it. So it's like, it's panic, and it's lack of discipline.
Everybody loved Diggs last year. Everybody that did love Diggs last year, I pointed him to that game, and I'm like, look, I'm not going to pan the guy overall over his breadth of college work for one game, but tell me you're not concerned about this, right?
Yeah.
And that game, with a couple of others, were pretty concerning. It was one of the reasons you and I talked about this a lot, that I was not very high on Diggs, certainly not as high as most people. But I saw Surtain was one who I was like, now that guy's comfortable in zone. He's very comfortable in man, and he's good at it. He's got the physical skills to do it. But when Saban asked him to drop into zone, he still looked like he was working. There's a lot of these guys that drop in his zone and they're like, coach, I'm in this spot. You're going to tell me I need to be in on film room on Monday. Look, I'm here. And the guy runs by and gets a catch and like, but I'm on my spot. And you're like, that's not zone. A lot of guys don't run zone very well in this class, or I don't feel like they have shown tape that they're very comfortable in zone. A lot of people comfortable in man. So great question.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. That's awesome.
Let me move to this one real quick here, because I'm trying to. We have a lot of questions. We're going to continue the tradition of taking extras and DMs. I can already tell.
We're buried, but it's.
I can't believe you guys, man. How much you guys donate. You guys are ridiculous. I love this audience. You guys are amazing.
I just want to say thanks to everybody. We'll take a quick second. Everybody that tuned in, we tried to make this stream a little bit earlier. I have the day off from my regular job, so we were able to start a little bit earlier. We wanted to try. We know folks watch all around the world. It's not possible to please everybody and get a perfect time. Somebody, hit me on Twitter earlier in the day, and they're like, "Oh, looks at time in Europe, midnight to 3." Gets excited, and I was like, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Like normally it's 3 to 6, and that's worse. Like I don't know. Everybody that's tuning in around the world, everybody that's bought bootleg merch, we've shipped about 20% of our orders internationally, which is something else. Bunch of people have bought in. I can't thank you enough for that. Like Brett said, for the super chats, for your generosity, for your questions on Twitter, for following the channel. We broke 10,000. We're over 10,000 subscribers, which is amazing. Just your constant support. I see people. We got cited in an academic paper this week. What the hell? Like
wildest thing in my life.
Bootleg football got cited in an academic paper. Doesn't matter how you support. Doesn't matter who you tell. I don't care if you're just hanging out, not super chatting, just taking in the stream, being a viewer. Like whatever you get out of it, thank you so much for being here. We do not take it for granted. Somebody the other day told me this, and they're a very successful YouTuber, far more so than either of the two of us. And they said, look, you're in the top 5%. And I was like, what are you talking about? And they're like, 95% of YouTube channels do not make it to 10,000 subscribers, never monetize, and don't have the depth and breadth that you guys do. And I was like, oh, okay. So year one, and we're in the top 5%. All right, I can live with that. So, anyways,
I'll take
players that play somebody guarding the grass. Yes, it's a terrible thing.
For £5 from, you know what? When I copy and pasted this, I didn't check if that was an I or an L.
Guess.
Ion Horrell? I guarantee you I fucked that up. I'm so sorry.
Fun. That's all right.
What's the best thing that Pats can do with how the QB board is falling? How much would it cost them to get Fields or Lance? Do they go for Garoppolo? Well,
the question of whether Garoppolo is actually up for sale. Now, everybody's up for sale.
I think
in the
he
NFL.
is.
I think everybody is for a price, but I think if they don't take a pound of flesh, he'll sit. They're more than happy, especially if they're going to take Jones. They're more than happy to start Garoppolo for 6 or 8 games.
Here's the thing. I think they'll give back to the Patriots at a discount because they gave him at a discount in the first place. Kyle was desperate. Kyle was fucking desperate at the time.
I know. Hometown discounts are overrated, but yeah, we'll see.
He was so desperate, and they gave him a lifeline because they weren't.
I agree.
They took Solomon Thomas instead of Mahomes and Watson. They needed somebody, and Belichick didn't want to send him to the Browns, so he gave him at second round for a starting quarterback.
Belichick doesn't like the Browns. Why is that?
I know, shocker. So if they give him at a discount to anybody, I think it'd be in New England. Solid.
I didn't announce the second beer. This is great. I love the can.
Pub beer.
Yep, 10 Barrel Brewing. Pub beer lager.
Simplistic. That's all you need.
Super good.
As for how much it would cost them to get Fields or Lance, a lot.
Yeah.
It would cost them a lot. More than they're willing to give. Because again, if Fields is available at 4, you got to outbid Denver, who's got more valuable ammo than you, because nobody in their right mind believes that a future first round pick with the Patriots is going to be in the top 15 again. It's going to be low first round picks for the next 3 years. Those are realistically not as valuable. So it would cost more than they're willing to give up, and other teams are going to outbid them. I don't think it's going to happen. Now, if Lance slips, let's say Carolina, they're satisfied with Darnold, which seems like they are. They don't take Lance. Detroit doesn't take Lance. Denver gets Fields. Atlanta's obviously not taking one. Cincinnati's not taking one. The Giants, I guess, aren't taking one.
There's a lot of I guesses in there. They can all trade down.
It's possible they can trade up maybe 5 spots for Lance.
Well, but I've seen the argument for Atlanta, and that's the one where I catch my breath, because I'm like, you gotta be really sure, because Matt Ryan is making $42 million next year. If you take the classic draft adage in the NFL, if you take a first round quarterback, you're playing them, right? And if that's the case, even next year, after a full year of development, Matt Ryan's making $42 million as a backup. That's tough to swallow. I don't care how much the salary cap goes up. I don't care if it goes up to 220, 225. You're talking about 45 million guys tied up in a guy that's on the bench. Team building, I'm
Justin Fields has a complicated relationship with the state of Georgia as well. Just to put it mildly. It's complicated.
Yes, true. It's complicated. Yes. It's the Facebook relationship status. It's complicated.
Either way, the Pats are going to have to pay more than they're willing to give up. Yeah. So it's very much more like Belichick to either A, stick with Cam, or B, give up, I don't know, what's Jimmy worth? A 4, 5?
All right, I'm just going to throw this out there because it's completely nuts, and I just thought of it, and, that just brings a lot of fun to a stream. Denver goes up. They get whoever. They get Fields or Lance.
Okay.
Right? And Locke's available. Bill take him?
To New England? Yeah, for cheap. as a
Well,
reclamation
anything for
project.
cheap with Belichick, right? But no, I just thought of that. I'm like,
I could see it
I
as like a
could
change
see
of
it,
scenery.
but I'm not particularly sure that Bill would like the things that Locke does on the field.
I still think that they would rather take Mond round 2 than spend 3 first-round picks to get Lance.
If they take Mon, I will never shut up about it.
You're just going to be stewing.
I will never shut up about it. Just to warn everybody. If the Patriots take Kellen Mond, I will never shut up about it.
More importantly, if Mond works out, if Mond's good.
Oh,
you
I'm
will
not
never
even
shut
going
up.
there. If he works out, I will be insufferable for the next longer than I am now.
Especially if they play the Bears in prime time. Kellen
Oh,
Mond.
don't start.
Kellen Mond, game-winning drive in Soldier Field.
Oh no, Kellen Mond just blows
drive
the
off the
Bears out.
bridge.
It's not even close. It's like 35-13, and I'm like, yes.
Oh.
I will have.
By the way, I think Bears play in Seattle next year. We should go.
We've talked about this. My house is still here, and you are still welcome. So yes.
Yeah, let's do that. Speaking of Seattle games, as a Packers fan looking to the future, where would you put Jordan Love as a prospect in this?
It's a really good question. It's Lance-ish. It's like either right above or right below Lance. Depends on how you like Lance.
I'm lower than that. I think he's below Mac.
You'd put him below Mac?
Here's my thing. He can't throw. Well, I'm not saying he can't. At Utah State, I got the school correct. He couldn't throw fades.
I don't have to send you my hat.
He was really bad at throwing fades down the anything deep.
No,
down
he
the
threw
boundary.
things on a line, and he was good at throwing things on a line. But there are reasons not to throw things on a line. If you watched, who's the quarterback guy out of Denver? Tim Jenkins, is that right? The analyst. Anyways, he did a thing on Darnold this last week before he got traded, and it was a cool format. He did 2 good throws, 2 bad throws, 2 good throws, 2 bad throws. So these are the things you would trade for, and these are the things you would have to be confident you could coach out. Right? And I thought it was a great format. And a couple of the things that you had to coach out were Darnold throws balls that should be helmet or higher on a line. And it gives the DB a chance. And Jordan Love was the same way. Jordan Love would throw things on a rope when he needed to put some air under it. And that's a thing that quarterbacks can learn, but it complicates an evaluation. I'm with you. I think to answer the question, I think Jordan Love and Mac Jones would be the ones fighting for a spot. I think the top 4 would stay the top 4, and Jordan Love would be 5th or 6th, depending on how you feel about Mac Jones. Or how you feel.
I like Jordan Love, the talent, I like a lot more. Jordan Love, the passer, I don't like as much as Mac Jones, the passer.
Ceiling or floor? It's a classic ceiling or floor argument.
Yeah. I think he's QB6 in this class, which again is not like that much of an indictment on last year's class. It's more so just a promotion of this year's class. Like there's just a lot of good quarterbacks this year. There's a lot of good quarterbacks.
It's a better class than it was last year. Like not even close. We had this discussion about Tua. Like Tua and Mac are somewhat comparable, and Tua was QB2 and Mac is QB5-ish if you listen to us. So,
and I legitimately like Mac better than Tua, and we had this discussion. And
totally agree.
It's not like a retroactive thing on Tua. It's just this class is good. So if you really want to shit on the Packers doing the Jordan Love pick, it's less so about who they didn't take last year. It's more so about the fact that this quarterback class is better and they could have got a better guy. Yeah, it is what it is. But hello, my friends. How do you feel about Sims saying Bateman is just a big slot and no elite qualities to be outside? From Nikhil, side Bateman, what wide receiver fits be more
Baltimore?
Best?
Yeah,
Terrace Marshall to the Ravens makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, but you love Bateman. I know it says aside for Bateman, but you love Bateman. Bateman to the Ravens has been your chalked pick, like straight up. And I don't disagree.
Bateman reminds me of Terry McLaurin. And now that we know he's actually 6 foot 190, it's not even that far off physically either. But like play style wise, like, oh yeah.
Huh.
He measured it. He went from 6'2", 210 at Minnesota. Well, actually, in high school, he was 6'3".
Yeah,
Minnesota, he was 6'2", 210.
Yeah.
Now at pro day, he's 6 foot 190.
The joke is Rashad Bateman's been shrinking since high school. But how do we feel about Sims saying Bateman is just a big slot?
Wrong.
There's two things about this. One, big slot is the next slot. What do I mean by that? For years, people said, can't draft a slot corner in the first round. They're not even a starter. Well, that's bullshit. Nickel has been the primary base defense for the majority of NFL teams for the last 2.5 years. And predictably, kind of before that, against passing offenses, slot is a starter. Slot is the starter. Your third linebacker is the sub off the bench. Your third corner is the guy that's playing starter reps. So big slot as a knock against a wide receiver, when you look at the people that get used in big slot, like CD was a big slot in Dallas and he cranked.
Michael Thomas.
Right. Like big slot is a primary role in many offenses around the NFL. Big slot. Oh, he's only a big slot. He can't play outside. As a knock, says more about Sims not kind of catching up to where the NFL is than who he said.
Comment of all time.
We don't do slot shaming on this channel. Yeah. No, we don't.
Oh, I'm actually
we don't. Slot corners, slot wide receivers as a knock. It's not. That's where the offense and defense go through. If you talk to anybody, slot corner is tougher to play as a rookie than outside because you can't shove people to the boundary and use that as a defender. You have a two-way go on every route. That is difficult in the NFL. Slot corner as a rookie is rough. So this whole, we don't do slot shaming. We do not. We do slot standing.
Slot standing. I love Bateman. I think he absolutely has the skills to play outside. Because when you look at, okay, what are the skills to play outside? Can you beat press? Are you good in releases? Do you have the speed to stack on a corner when you do win on a release? Do you have ball skills? Yes, and yes.
Yeah,
it's not
can you go get it?
Like people think of all outside receivers as just, are you Alshon Jeffrey? And it's like, that's not what it is. Like Antonio Brown was a 5'10" X receiver because he could beat press and stack on corners.
You know who played really well, and this is perfectly in line with that argument. You know who played really well outside last year?
Who was smaller? Tyreek.
Well,
who do you think? I mean, Tyreek plays well everywhere, but
I was going to say that's sort of a like, I have a trump card. I don't care. I can win anywhere. That's Tyreek. Darnell Mooney.
Yeah, no, he was one of the better rookie receivers in the league.
And he played outside.
Yeah.
He
was better than Miller.
Yeah. And if you look at the Darnell Mooney highlights from last year, the guys he was roasting,
good corners.
One of them is named Ramsey.
Yeah.
Yeah. He made Ramsey look like an idiot playing outside. So this idea that little guys can only play slot, big guys can't play. How often do we see one guy motions from outside boundary to opposite side slot because they want to check alignment and get a more favorable bounce? Like all the time. You need to be able to be versatile, and being a slot is not a knock. So there you go.
No. From Leg Day Skipper. Great name. Elite name. What do you think of the Vikes getting Tomlinson and Peterson in free agency? Will this fix their defense? Who should they go for in the first round? Well, thank you for the €5 as well. So I'm curious what they're going to do with the defensive line because they have 2 nose tackles now. So are they just going to rotate in somebody like Milton? Help me out here. Who's the freak 280?
Oh, from LSU, from Louisiana,
from La Tech,
Milton Williams.
Milton Williams. It's like, are you going to get a Milton Williams that you just bring in and sub? and have him be like a.
Have you noticed this in scouting DTs? Because I've been in DT. Like I said, I just finished DT this weekend. Scouting DTs in college, they have packages. They don't sub out guys. They almost switch per drive. It's these two guys and these two ends, and they swap them all out. And then you come back and you're like, "Where's the guy? Where's the other? Where's the? Oh, this is an entire new four guys. Yep,
yeah.
It's like hockey. They're doing it like hockey in college now. It's these four guys come in and they're in for either a drive or a set number of plays or whatever. And then those four guys leave and the other four guys come back in, or at least the inside on the DTs. These two guys swap out. The other pair comes in. And it's not 50-50, but it's close in most schools. Like you're looking at even a primary DT in this draft, and they played maybe 60% of the snaps for their team. And I'm not talking about blowouts where they got pulled. I'm talking about competitive snaps. Like you'll see them and they'll play a drive and then they're out. And then the other team comes in, the other line comes in. And I could see them doing that, or I could see them doing the "you will not run through the middle" thing.
It's the Williams wall, man.
Well, it's that for Minnesota, for the Bears. It's Washington and Trailer right in front of Urlacher. We're going to put these two guys here. They're going to control 6 yards between the hashes, and he's just going to run to everything else. And if you think about the Minnesota linebackers, makes a ton of sense, right?
Yeah, because they're rangy. They can run.
Two guys that can run like crazy and fill guy. They got Bard, Kendricks, and they like you put two guys in front of them and say, hey, these 5 to 6 yards are taken care of. I love Tomlinson, by the way, more so than Peterson at this stage of his career. Tomlinson was a guy that I really thought was sort of undervalued or underappreciated. And I could see them running them together very easily. Like, and just you're not getting anything here.
I oddly think that the more I think about it, they're building their defense for the Packers. Because the Packers, they ran 12 and 21, I think, in like top
12 especially
last year. 12 especially.
Like, those
they
guys
run the ball
those
like
guys
crazy.
Against 12, that's a 12 killer for sure.
Yeah, it's like we are gonna stop the run. We bring in Patrick Peterson, which, considering the crazy shit that's happened with who's the guy they drafted at TCU last year. I can't remember his name.
Gladney, and you liked him and I didn't. Just say it.
Well, I didn't expect that. I mean, Jesus.
It's not good. If anybody hasn't been following
terrible.
the news, the Jeff Gladney turned himself in to police. It's a domestic violence situation. It's not good. Or at least it doesn't look good. He is accused, not.
If he is guilty,
yes.
He's done. Just flat out, he's done. So it's probably Peterson might end up getting more playing time than we expected. I'll just say.
And to be fair, I didn't like Gladney, as Brett said, on the field as much as Brett did. We don't get that third. We don't get the peek behind the curtain on that third of draft analysis, which is how they take coaching, how they work in the weight room. What do their teammates think of them? What does their high school coach think of them? Have they ever had any run-ins with the law or DUI? Like, we don't, unless it's been made public, and many of those things are not, we don't see that. Like, we don't get it. And when we had Brandon Thorne on, I was actually really, I don't know, pleased, but just refreshed to hear he's like, I don't consider medical, like, at all. And I'm like, because that's like, and then I realized he's like, nope, I'm talking about their on-field performance. If they're healthy, I'll let the doctors do the doctor thing. And that's right to some point, right? We're hands off that full third. We don't know about quote unquote actual character because we don't get to investigate actual character. Quite frankly, neither do we want to. We're going to look at their tape and their skills and their physical abilities. And we're going to talk about scheme fits and best fits. And we hope that everybody out there is satisfied with that. Because we don't really have an option. We don't employ an army of private investigators that can go digging in. NFL teams do. And it was probably known about Jeff Gladney that maybe there were some, red flags about that. Maybe not. But Not a happy situation. And yes, Patrick Peterson might get a whole lot more downs than anybody thought he was going to get, which is not necessarily a good thing at this stage of his career.
Sloth said they intend to play Tomlinson primarily as 3-tech. That's expected, to be honest, because Tomlinson played some 3 last year with the Giants. Like, he and Leonard they moved them both around quite a bit. Yep. When I say 2 nose tackles, I'm saying 2 nose tackle skill sets.
Bodies.
So it's like
2 nose tackle bodies.
Pierce playing a lag nose, meaning like if you're in like an over front and they're running to the strong side, he will intentionally play the back shoulder of the center, lagging in that backside A gap because he's fully expecting Kendricks to fill the front side A. And if Kendricks is shooting and then forcing everything into him, anyway, not to get too deep in the weeds here, but if he's playing like a backside A gap, Tomlinson would be at front side 3, so he's literally just stacking on the guard, probably shooting front side B and then leaving A for whoever the mic is. So it's 2 nose tackle skill sets. You're not going to fucking run on them either way. So I like what Minnesota's done. I'm still hesitant to project them as a potential wild card team because the offensive line is a mess still.
Yeah,
but
they got to do some things there.
They got to do some things. Tommy Tremble was a mid-round target for the Jets from Kayvon Richards for $2.
Oh man, Tremble's really interesting. He's on my list. So I did a little project yesterday. This will be news to you, Brett, but I woke up and felt inspired. I was on vacation yesterday too, and I was like, I need to make a list of ball of clay guys in this draft. And I had a couple obviously in mind. And then I was like, I need to go digging and I need to find ball of clay guys for like every position and figure out like, so a ball of clay guy is that guy that has either a tremendous RAS score, relative athletic score, maybe wasn't used correctly in scheme in college. Think George Kittle, right? George Kittle was a crazy athlete, really good blocker, and he had like 11 pass receptions his senior year, and you're like, wow, he beat the hell out of that safety. You're like, wow. But they never use him that way because Iowa doesn't throw their tight ends, which is, their second tight end, which is weird because Iowa tight ends are a thing right now in the league. And they have one this year too. Sean Beyer is a guy that ended up on my ball of clay list. But ball of clay is a guy that has tremendous physical potential, jumped out of the gym, but maybe played at a small school, wasn't used well in scheme, just has, all those coaches around the league like salivating. And like, if I had to ask you, like, who are your top 2 balls of clay that you can just think of right off the cuff in this draft, like grab a couple because there's like 15.
But Micah Parsons.
Is it? I say it's his teammate.
Oh, Owe, yeah.
Owe is like the ball of clay guy in this draft, right? He had basically no sacks. He's Danielle Hunter. He is unlimited physical potential that D-line coaches are going to be like, give me that guy. He can
fix him.
That. Yeah, he can move like that. I can do things with him. And that's what ball of clay guys are. And they can be at all positions, wide receiver, defensive end, whatever. So I was working on this ball of clay. Anyways, Tommy Tremble ended up being my ball of clay guy for sort of H-back, fullback, because, let me check his score. But really interesting guy, position flexible, can play a move tight end, can play this little interesting puller role, which is like an offset H-back tight end that comes across the formation, did that a lot for Notre Dame. Interestingly, Kenny Yeboah did that a ton for Ole Miss, which is a completely different sort of player body set, but they both did the exact same role. Ball of clay list, 8.9 RAS score for Tommy Tremble. So he's tickling elite athleticism. Interesting player, but you gotta have a role for him. Mid-round target for the Jets. I could see it
in that system because they know how to use ball of clay fullbacks. And H-backs?
Yes, if they bring him in and he becomes their sort of use check, or who's the guy from Cincinnati last year that went to the Packers? Our tight end, Josiah
DeGuara.
DeGuara, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, like that's the gig, right? And Tommy Tremble is one of those guys that could slot into that particular role and do the things they need him to do. Catch some routes, again, pull and block with speed, option out and become an offensive mismatch against the defense. Athletically, like, yeah, I could see that for sure. But because they come specifically from a system that understands how to use that role, because not every offense has a slot for that guy.
I'd say the Miami kid, I think, might be able to fill that role.
Brevin? But Brevin,
you'd have to teach him to block, but
yeah, but he didn't test all that well. Like, I was really bummed by Brevin Jordan's testing because his tape looks better. They were not great. His RAS was, hang on. I will bring up.
That genuinely surprises me. I thought he was fast.
I know. I thought he was great. I have the calculator up, but
4.66. I'll take that. 6'3", 247, 4.66. It's not like blowing you away like I thought, but
no. It
30-inch vert.
Yeah, his explosion numbers overall, like, were not.
That's
hang
so
on,
weird because he
draft.
looks so much faster than that.
The guy at tight end that nobody's talking about? I sent him to you yesterday.
BC guy, Hunter Long?
Nope. Not even close. He had a decent athletic score. No, this guy's name is Sammy Reyes. And Sammy Reyes
the basketball player.
Forward for Tulane.
Yeah.
He scored a 10.
Mm-hmm.
He is 6'5", 260. He benched 31. That's a 992 for RAS, by the way. 40-inch vertical, 10.5-inch broad. If you're talking about 10 foot and a half inch at 260, he ran a 4.65 with a 162 10-yard split.
That's ridiculous.
That is a 10 for RAS. That puts him at the top of the tight end rankings. So if he can catch, if he understands how to play football, like, Sammy Reyes is a guy you need to keep up on. He could be a late round pick. If not, he is a priority free agent. And nobody's talking about him. Anyways, yeah, Sammy Reyes. Ostensibly Tulane.
The G Mike for $10. Thank you for that. Which direction do you think the Packers should go in the draft? They're already such a great team. Let me pull up their depth chart so you guys can look at it.
You're just trolling me now.
I just want you to talk about the Packers. I just want to force this issue on you.
It's okay. I just talked about DeGuara. Come on.
Yeah, but you like talking about football.
Okay, Brevin Jordan's RAS, by the way, I just found it. 4.52.
Oh, shit.
So 6'2" is a 1.46. 247 is a 3.78. Bench of 17 is a 3.9. Vertical of 31 is a 3.9. His broad was a 9 foot 8 inch. That's 6.72. That's okay. His speed scores really good. 4.68 is an 8.41. 10-yard split of 1.59 is a 9.35. Here you go. Here's where it falls off. Shuttle 4.5 is a 3.58. 3-cone of 7.57. 122.
7.5.
His overall is 4.52.
What the hell?
Yeah, it's not good. Doesn't look like his tape. Again, I think Brevin Jordan plays faster than that on tape, and I have to account for tape more than I do because, maybe he slipped during the 3-cone. Maybe he didn't run a good one, whatever. But knowing that he's short, 6'2 and a half, 247 on the lighter side, benched 17. Okay. His speed score is very good, but that, if you switch that to a wide receiver, his speed scores would not be good at all. So is he a tight end? If he is, he needs to block 17 reps. Doesn't equate to blocking necessarily. Technique comes into it, but I was really surprised by his overall composite athletic score because on tape, he looks very athletic. In his testing, not so much. So
that's super disappointing.
Yeah,
for the Packers. For the Packers, the thing that jumps out to me, I don't know about you, I would take right tackle and then kick Billy Turner back inside because I think Billy Turner struggles to tackle.
Yeah.
I'm looking again. I'm gonna bring up his name, especially for all these teams that run wide zone. Brady Christensen at 30 overall, something like that. For how dominant he is as a run blocker in wide zone, he's a pretty good pass protector as well. He is a perfect fit. He's a position of need, in my opinion, a position of need. You're basically getting a 2-for-1 because I think Billy Turner can play inside and he's better inside. I'm assuming Jenkins is going to be their center of the future, which is why they let Lindsley walk, and they want Runyon to play guard. So you get a best five of Bakhtiari if he's healthy, Runyon, Jenkins, Turner, or Lucas Patrick, whoever wins that job, probably going to be Turner, and then Brady Christensen at right tackle. That is a hell of an offensive line.
Don't make me. That's not. See, the funny thing is I get to hate the Packers draft every year because they actually draft. Well, they draft interestingly, but they always draft some players that are really like Darnell Savage was one of my guys. They always draft a couple of my guys because I like them. Aaron Jones led off my all undrafted free agent team that year. And of course, Aaron Jones ends up as a Packer and a great one. Everybody thinks I hate the Packers. Look, I root for a team that's the rival of the Packers. That doesn't mean I can't like somebody that wears green and yellow. My other, half of podcast host, JB, he can't do that. It's in his blood. He was raised a different way. He can't possibly like any Packers or anybody that goes to play for the Packers. That's not me. I have an appreciation of players in green and gold. Aaron Rodgers is a Hall of Famer, and if you don't like watching him play, you don't really like football. The fact that he's gutted me how many times over the years I've lost count, it doesn't really factor into it, because if you watch him every other week besides Bears week, right? I was going to say 14 weeks, but it's now 15. That's the weird thing.
I'm not going to get used to saying
no. It's kind of going to be like
new
record San Diego forever, and you're just going to correct me. But anyways, if you don't appreciate Jordan, not Jordan. Freudian slip for Packers fans. Aaron Rodgers. Playing football, you just don't like football because he is a masterful football player. Like he is the best of the best. And if you don't like watching the best of the best just because they wear colors that you don't like, okay, that's not the way I approach it. So I have respect for a lot of Packers. It's always a bummer when they pick people I really like and they work out. That's the worst. It's like, I knew I liked him.
But so if, as a Bears fan, who would you hate for your sake the Bears to take the most in the first round? Who are you terrified that they're going to draft?
Yeah, the Packers.
Packers. Who are you terrified of the Packers drafting?
Honestly, if they did something like Creed Humphrey, I would hate it because, man, it would be so hard. It just makes getting through the middle of that line really, really difficult. But the other thing is, look, if there's a big wide receiver sitting there that's got talent, and, famously last year they pissed off Aaron Rodgers by not drafting any wide receivers. Like if Terrace Marshall is sitting there at 29 and they're like, yeah, give him Terrace Marshall and Devontae Adams, I'm going to be like, oh, Jesus.
No. Terrace Marshall, and then in round 3, Tamarian Terry's dropping.
I liked a bunch of the receivers in the draft lower down, not guys that I would take out, but I liked Equanimeous St. Brown. Like I thought he was cool. I liked Lazard as the way they use him as a sort of big slot, heavy physical presence. Like I thought he had talent. These are not the guys that you would probably stack up as primary receiving options for a Hall of Fame quarterback in his prime, but doesn't mean I didn't like them, didn't scout them, didn't think they were good. Strangely, I was a bit down on Devontae Adams, but again, if you look at Devontae Adams coming out, he is not the guy. He'll even tell you he is not the guy that he is now. He is not the best receiver in the NFL. He has developed into that. And did I see that in his time coming out of college? No. I thought Devontae Adams was like a 3rd or 4th round talent. Like I didn't think he was great at all. He has made himself into a great receiver. Again, I can appreciate that and listen to everybody around the NFL that says who's the best receiver, and most of them say Devontae Adams in the top 3 names, like for a reason. He is ridiculously good. And it's a bummer to have one of, if not the best receivers in the NFL with the best quarterback in the NFL on the same team, playing against a team you root for. But it is what it is. And Aaron Jones is a great running back. I mean, that's a great set of triplets if we're talking about triplets in the NFL. Like, You could do a lot worse than Rodgers, Devontae Adams,
Yeah.
and Aaron
Best
Jones.
in the league, top 3 in the league. Yeah, you could do worse.
No, and it's a bummer, but there you are. Ooh, I love the Abby. May the force be with you.
Oh,
Thank
that's
you.
great.
I'll take it.
Jonathan Peck for $5, which I think he also asked this question earlier. I think this is one of the ones I had saved to get to, but I think he donated twice to make sure. So I wanted to
thank you, Jonathan.
Which LB from this draft do you think is the best scheme fit for Ron Rivero and Jack Del Rio defense? Is it JOK, Zaven Collins, or Jamin Davis? So here's the thing.
I'm going to let you field this. I'll be right back.
Sure. When you look at their defense right now, you got Cole Holcomb, John Bostic, and I'm assuming Kaliki Hudson as your starting linebackers. So for me, out of those two, the most prescient or the most appropriate to upgrade would be Bostic for one at Mike linebacker, because I want somebody who can play on all 3 downs, because you're going to be swapping out a linebacker in that defense to then bring on your nickel DB or dime DB or whatever package they're going to be running on passing downs. So I want a Mike linebacker that can not only stop the run on first and second down, but I want a Mike linebacker that I'm not feeling terrible about on third down, which leads me to either potentially Zaven Collins, just because of how athletic he is, if they coach him up to handle, I guess you call it pro style coverage concepts, because at Tulsa, it was a lot of like drop 8 stuff, a lot of spot drop stuff. Like he hasn't really done a lot of complicated, match zone principles. So you'd have to coach him up, but he is athletic enough to do it. JOK has already done all that stuff, so he already knows what to do. But I feel like if you have Holcomb and JOK as your third down package, it might leave you a little bit vulnerable to the run, because that's kind of a smaller linebacking core to me. So maybe take out JOK from consideration, who, to be honest, he'll probably be gone anyway, so it's not really that big a deal. I want a bigger linebacker that can really stop the run, that doesn't shit himself mentally in coverage because he already knows what to do. The one that I think fits all those criteria to me right now is Jamin Davis. Excellent run defender, very good instincts. You don't really have to teach him much in terms of pro-style coverage concepts. He's done all that at Kentucky because they use a system at Kentucky on defense that's a little bit more comparable to what they do in the pros, whereas Tulsa's like a lot of 3-down stuff. It's a lot of tight front, a lot of drop 8, like not really a lot of stuff that NFL teams do. So I would probably lean towards Jamin Davis, because I think he's the best combination of run stopping ability. Don't really have to coach him up that much in terms of coverage concepts. Tremendous instincts, great athlete. I really, 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 really like Jamin Davis for them. And as like a break glass in case of emergency type pick for them at 20, like let's say all the receivers are gone. Let's say the tackles they want are gone, because I still think they could use another left tackle. Let's say the quarterbacks are gone if they want to get one for the future. And it's like, we just need to take a guy who's guaranteed going to be good. It's going to be Jamin Davis. It sucks they only answer questions if it's a donation. Well, we prioritize the donation ones because we know we're not going to get to everybody's question no matter what, because there's too many questions to answer in a 3-hour period. And so the people that, donate to the channel and support us monetarily to help us actually be able to do this, we want to reward that by answering their questions. So it's not that, we will only answer questions if it's a donation. It's more so we just have a backlog of questions that are donate questions, and we want to be able to reward people that spend their hard-earned money on us. So like if we had no donations at all, like we'd still be answering questions, but we do prioritize the ones that have donations behind them, because we know that you guys you're spending your money on us, you're supporting us, and we want to reward that. So again, it's not a malicious thing. We have a lot of people that support this channel, and so we have to bribe you. It's not necessarily bribing. I don't consider it bribing. It's more so we appreciate your support, and we want to reward that support. Welcome back, EJ. Let me pull up this question. Maybe you can give your take on it as well.
You can always toss questions on Twitter as well.
Yeah. Do you, out of these three, JOK, Zaven, or Jamin Davis, which one strikes you as the? For reference, I said Jamin Davis because I felt like he was the best combination of run stopping ability and also not really having to coach him up in coverage.
Yeah, this is weird. This is my draft minutia taking over. Draft/scheme minutia taking over. JOK, I feel like, is the ultimate sort of dime backer. I call him hammers in this draft. Guy that can float between safety and linebacker in dime. Zaven Collins, I'm on record as saying, is a great do-it-all, super skilled, wildly athletic. I think I sent you the thing where he jumped the same vertical as Javon Holland, and he weighs 50 pounds more than Holland. Like, Holland had a good vertical jump, 35 inches. Zaven Collins jumped 35 inches, and he weighs 50 pounds more than Javon Holland. And Jamin Davis is one of the guys in this class I'm way lower on than most people. He's on my ball of clay list because, again, you look at his physical attributes and coaches are going to be like, he can do what? Give him to me. But when I look on film, I don't see it like other people see it. So I'm thinking about scheme fit, and I'm like, well, I can actually think of some other linebackers I might rather have than these three guys for, again, draft minutia reasons. If it was me picking, Zaven, I'm going to get a little bit later. What are they picking? 19? Isn't that their pick?
It's 20.
No, 20's Bears. 19. Yep.
Oh, 19. Okay.
Yeah, 19. So JOK probably going to be gone by then. Zaven's going to be available. Is he great value? Jamin Davis available later.
Noah brought up that it's a 25-3 bet for JOK to be the first linebacker.
Well, it depends on whether or not you consider JOK a linebacker. But yeah, if you're considering him a linebacker, he's first one. He's first one off the board. Who?
Well, no, I'm saying I would bet on JOK to be the first. Yeah, I'm sure most prop bets are like Micah Parsons first linebacker. I'm betting on Owusu-Koramoah.
No, Owusu-Koramoah. And interestingly, if you really like Owusu-Koramoah and you don't get him, go get Tony Fields from West Virginia.
I gotta get.
I did him this week. You were pumping him up. Like, holy crap! Like, that guy is JOK light, and he's not that light. Like, he is being. If you like that role, if you like that sort of 220-ish pound linebacker that just flies all over the place, can play run, can play pass, blitzes like crazy. Yeah, Tony Fields is a guy you need to go look at. He is. Oh, Fatty makes an appearance.
This one's little.
Oh, sorry. The relative scheme, the parallax makes the little look big, and little is big for those of you at home.
I left my door open because I figured he might want to come in and say hi.
Yeah, hang out, sit on, not interrupt a video and interrupt a live stream. It's different.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, no. We want some Lions talk. Pick 7. What are they doing? That's a really good question. I don't think they're in the quarterback derby. And that puts him in prime position to take whoever drops if 4 of the top, say, 4 picks are quarterbacks with the trade. They're going to have a very good look at some of the top quality players in this draft. I mean, the top 2 or 3 players that are not quarterbacks are going to be at their disposal. Anybody they want from the offensive line, they might get a shot at Pitts. I don't know that they do.
I think they will because let's just say Chase goes to Cincinnati.
Well, let me pull this up real quick. So let's just say top 4 are quarterbacks.
Would Miami take Pitts or would Miami take Devonta? That's the question.
Well, it depends on if Chase is off the board because it really depends on what the Bengals do, right? Because the Bengals are the first sort of non-quarterback team, assuming Atlanta trades out. Chase. Yeah, I could see the Bengals taking Chase like we talked about earlier and then taking a tackle. And then, Dolphins, I think, would probably take Devonta over Pitts because they already have Gesicki and they could use – and quite frankly, rookie wide receivers are much more productive than rookie tight ends. I think that only applies liberally to Pitts in terms of calling him a tight end. So, at that point, the Lions are staring at Waddle, Pitts, any tackle they want, pretty much. And that's probably who they're talking about. I really think Okuda is gonna rebound and live up to a lot of the.
Yeah, I don't really have any worries. I don't have any worries about Okuda.
Right.
Personally.
So you're talking about an offensive option, either a wide receiver / Pitts / offensive tackle for the Lions. And honestly, I'd probably again take, because the Lions pick at a decent spot in the second round as well, they're going to be able to get a shot at one of those sort of overflow tackles. They pick at 41 for their second pick. I would get some high-end receiving talent. And again, if they go Smith, if they go Waddle, if they go Pitts, the answer is yes. I'm not disappointed in any of that. Yeah. If they choose that they need a tackle and they choose to take, whoever, Sewell, Slater, again, I'm not disappointed. That's a solid team building move. And the bottom line is Detroit is not one player away. I think they're at a place where nobody's really going to want to trade up with them because the quarterbacks, again, are going to be gone. And unless it's maybe Pitts and somebody's crazy hot to get him, but I just don't see that happening. So, and the Lions aren't one player away. They're 8 players away. So, get the best guy you can.
I think it's, no matter what, you're getting one of Chase, Pitts, Devonta. So no matter what, you're happy.
You're or one of the tackles. I could see them going tackle as well. People say they don't want to. And,
I can see it.
But when you get a chance to load up on a primary position at the top end of the draft, that's where the good offensive tackles come from. Typically, not in this class. This class is ridiculously loaded.
Yeah, this is not a normal tackle class for sure.
No, not even close. Not even close.
Who would the Steelers take in round 1 from Bakarian 7 for $2? Kind of depends on who's there.
Yeah, Steelers in round 1 are down there.
I'm
24.
Okay, so Juju, Deontay, Washington, Claypool. The receiving core is fine. Quarterback, there's probably not going to be one.
No, I think Mac's gone. So really, it's tackle because Villanueva is gone, or will be.
Well, how do you feel about Chukwuma Okorafor at left tackle? I'm not really sure what to think, to be honest. It's not like he precludes me from taking one if a Sam.
No, if the guy you want it, I've heard Tevin Jenkins.
I would be all about it.
Yeah, if Jenkins is there and they go, again, we're going to take a preeminent position. When I say preeminent position, I mean in terms of where you get them in the draft, typically what they cost in the overall NFL salary scale. So that comes into team building and value. You get an offensive tackle, starting offensive tackle in the bottom end of the first round, 24. You've got that guy locked in for potentially 5 years at a greatly reduced salary. That's a building block of an offense, right? Mm-hmm. So if you got a Tevin Jenkins there, or you've got somebody, maybe, some people say, Slater's a guard. Now Slater's not going to be there. Who else might be there? Going down my tackle list.
And he's gone.
Yeah, I don't think Darisaw is going to be there necessarily.
Somewhere there.
No, I think Jenkins, or if they're hot for Elijah Vera Tucker at guard, or Leatherwood, who could go either. Again,
I think in the first round, Jenkins, you hear a lot of talk of Jenkins is a right tackle. He's not athletic enough to play left tackle. His RAS was top 35 of all tackle prospects in the last 3 decades. He's athletic.
No, he's crazy athletic. And I there's one guy that I talked to quite a bit that is dead set that Jenkins is a guard. And I'm like, I just don't see it. And, he keeps rapping on, if he gets to his pass set on time, he's locked in. If he doesn't get to his pass set on time, he doesn't. And I'm like, well, that's not true. You see that?
You know what it is?
You see him grab that. I know you know what it is, but he watched
the Texas game.
I know.
He watched the Texas game when Osai got around.
I know.
But here's the thing. It was 0 blitz. Jenkins was peeking inside because he was thinking block inside out on 0, and Osai has a 42-inch vert. So it's like if you peek inside, like that was not a physical fault.
No,
I've seen that rep brought up a lot.
Yeah,
I've seen that rep brought up a lot of like, oh, he doesn't have good feet. It was 0, and he was peeking at the threat from the safety. Like, come on, guys.
I'm with you that he's got a great frame. He's over the 33-inch arm threshold, which we talked about with Brandon. He's athletic as all get out, and he is mean. He is so mean. Like, he drops guys every game and just drills them into the turf. Like, it is not a rarity on his tape. So, I could see Tevin Jenkins. I could see a guard prospect as well if there was a preeminent guard prospect like Elijah Vera Tucker and he was still there and you're at 24 and you're like, do I get the first guard or the fourth tackle? They need both. Again, quarterback's probably not going to be there. So there you go.
Are the Ravens going to trade Orlando for another pick or not? At this point, just considering the strength of the tackle class, probably no. Because I think teams would rather just draft the tackle and not have to pay him for 5 years than trade a first for Orlando Brown and immediately have to pay him $20 million a year.
Yeah, and be sure that he can play left, not right. I know he's played left for them. I think he can, but there is a projection thing there that's like, you got to be real sure because you have to back it up with a lot of money.
I don't think it's a sound team building move to pay $20 million for a tackle when you can draft one this year in the best tackle class we've seen since, I don't know, maybe 2008.
Yeah.
And it's just, if you were going to trade him, it would have been before free agency when teams weren't really sure what the landscape was going to be.
I could still see him getting traded, but I don't think it's for a first.
It's a 2.
Yeah.
It's a 2. It's a 2 for a team that has a lot of money.
Or a lot of draft capital.
Or a lot of, the Jets have 1 million picks, and right now their starting tackle is going to be George Fant. Orlando, not that Fant's terrible, but Orlando's an upgrade, and they could pay him, and they could throw a 2 because they have 4 of them.
Yeah,
in the next 2 years.
That's not a bad idea. I like that actually a lot, and I can see that happening with that lineup of we don't have a great tackle now. We've got an extra pick or a pick that we could afford, or Orlando's better than anybody we could draft here, but you are going to have to pay him big money. So you're going to have some cap space. Cap space next year, not really going to be a thing like it is this year. So if you can put that off a year and have, have a piece on your offensive line that's elite in front of a new quarterback. Yeah. But a 1, I don't think they're getting a 1. And if they're going to hold the line that 1 is his value or he doesn't go anywhere, he doesn't go anywhere.
No, and then he'll just hit the market anyway, and they'll get a comp pick back. Like if they can't get a third, or if all they can get is a third, they'll just hold on to him
because they're going
to get a third back and a comp pick. So who cares? Yeah. Like,
is there really a world? You better get used to it. There kind of is. It's starting to sound like that, and that doesn't have to do with my valuation or Brett's or whatever. It's a reality of they've seen something. A lot of people are talking about it now. It may become a real thing, and I'm not going to bet against them making it work. Because look, Mac Jones is a good quarterback. Everybody thinks Mac Jones is dog food is ridiculous. Like, Mac Jones is a good quarterback. He's very good. Is he great? I don't think he's great, but they see something. And my mentions are going to go to Dresden. When I watched Mac Jones, I thought, this is a lot like Montana in college.
Oh, God.
It was true.
Don't
college,
don't
not pros.
Start.
Montana at Notre Dame was very similar.
You're going to make me pour
go ahead.
The rest of this bottle right now.
I'm telling you, in college, I'm not talking about the NFL MVP. I'm not talking about the Super Bowl winner. I'm not talking about the Hall of Famer, right? I'm talking about in college, his tape doesn't look all that much different than Mac Jones. Not super mobile outside the pocket, accurate, good decision maker, not a huge arm, right? An arm that gets there. Timing's good. Like, I thought that. This was way before the San Francisco stuff. And I was like, I'm never going to say that because nobody can separate Joe Montana, the legend, from Joe Montana coming out of Notre Dame. But I thought, it's not a terribly different profile. Like, it's kind of the same thing. And I just forgot about it. And then San Francisco trades up, and I still forgot about it. And then San Francisco's taking Mac Jones at 3. And I was like, oh, God. Oh, God.
Now watch him become like the greatest quarterback of his generation. People are gonna pull this clip in 10 years and be like, Brett's a fucking idiot.
No,
I'm not saying he's bad. Come on.
He's not. He's a good quarterback, but is he? Does he have the ceiling? He doesn't. But again, we have to come to a point where we say we at least consider that it is possible. Before everybody was like, no, and it still might not come to be. Right? They might pull switch, go for Lance, whatever. Say, we fooled you all. Totally cool. I get it. But we gotta realize that it's at least a legit possibility now because so many people are saying it that are connected.
I'm just saying, Colin Cowherd keeps saying Lance to the 49ers, and I'm starting to think that Cowherd has an inside source with Lance's team.
Yeah.
For reasons.
Yeah, for reasons.
Just saying. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors for both sides here.
Yeah.
Speaking of quarterbacks by the way, thank you, Bootleg Football Disciple, for that $5 in that last question. Love the name. How do you currently rank the top QBs from Valley Veterinarian for 10? Right now, I'm Lawrence 1, Fields 2, Wilson 3, Lance 4, Mac 5. That's where I'm at. And then Mond 6, if you want to throw him in there.
Yep.
Are you same?
I'm same. I could see the argument if you're going ceiling floor for switching Lance and Jones, right? If you want floor, you take Jones first, but 100%. Not above Wilson. And you say Lance is a developmental. If you got a developmental Lance option, look, if Atlanta takes Lance at 4, if they stay there and they sit him behind Matt Ryan for 2 years, a couple of years from now, you might be saying Mahomes-like things sitting behind Alex Smith for the first year and not playing because you needed to get his game to a certain level because he has so many gifts, but you need to line him up. And I could see something like that working. If you take Lance and start him day 1, it's not, the first year is not going to be great. The NFL is going to throw stuff at him he needs to adjust to. Not saying he can't overcome it. I'm saying the first year is going to be some growing pains for sure.
I will say this. I have one caveat for my rankings. Whoever goes to San Francisco is immediately my new QB2 because the situation is so good that whoever goes there is going to, I think, be successful. Doesn't matter who. It can be Mac, it can be Lance, it can be Fields, Wilson, whoever. Doesn't matter. Yeah. They're going to be successful there. So I'm fully on the Kyle Shanahan's going to make somebody good train.
Yes. No, I just saw a super chat come in from Alexander Gonzalez. I like the question a lot.
Let me get down there. Take my money.
That's the one. It's the second part. We will absolutely take your money, and thank you for sending it our way. That still cracks me up. That it doesn't crack me up. I'm just humbled by the fact that people say, "I want to hear your football opinion enough that I'll pay you money for it," and I'm like, "Really? Okay." Awesome. I'll give it to you. Whatever else I can. Yeah. No. Should they fire Tomlin and hire Eric Bieniemy next year? Really good question.
No.
I would say no. Organizational stability is underrated because it is very hard to achieve. You look at the team that I root for, the Bears, like you're not going to hit organizational stability without a quarterback. You're just not. And if you do that and counterpoint is like the Ravens, another very stable organization. They won the Super Bowl, and they had a quarterback who looked better than he was, still good, but they were able to weather the period until they could snipe Lamar at the end of the first round and have a good quarterback again because they had good drafting. Really solid communication between the coach and the GM, belief from the fan base that Harbaugh was going to get it right. Harbaugh, DeCosta, Harbaugh, his predecessor. So, organizational stability is very hard to come by in the NFL, and you need to demonstrate excellence, right? On the personnel side, on the field, you need to win a lot of games every year and pretty much be in it for the division crown almost every year. Tomlin does that. Like Tomlin has that team there every year. And for everybody saying, oh, they don't get over the hump. They don't get over the hump. They haven't won their 7th ring, right?
Coming from a Texans fan, you don't know what a bad season even looks like.
Yeah.
They haven't had a losing season with Tomlin since he took over in, what was it, 2008?
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
He's awesome.
Can you fucking imagine as a Bears fan?
I know it.
Having 13 straight non-losing seasons.
No, I get it.
Kidding me?
And again, organizational stability requires a couple of things. You need to get a quarterback to start it, and then you need the sustained stuff off the field to keep it going. And Pittsburgh's been able to do it. The Ravens have been able to do it. There's not that many other I mean, you could say the Seahawks have done it for quite a while now. But again, they had a quarterback. They went to a Super Bowl. The fans have weathered some pretty average drafting for the last 2 or 3 years. Patriots are the same way. Had a quarterback, had a coach GM that was doing things, had some very questionable drafting, but they kept putting results on the field. They won that division. How many years in a row did they win the AFC East?
A lot.
A lot.
The
answer is, I don't even know because it's too many.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there are, a handful? 4 or 5 teams in the NFL you can say that about? I mean, depending on your very flexible definition, and it should be flexible because this is a subjective question. Seattle, New England, Pittsburgh, the Ravens.
Baltimore.
That's like 4 teams. And
Packers,
after that.
Well, not even Packers because
no, not Packers. Yeah. But I mean, you could put them in there if you were, but again, a lot of that was just Rodgers, and it's not coaching stability, but they have maintained a long winning tradition at the top of the division. But still, that's 5 teams out of 32, right? Yeah. And we're struggling on the 5th. We're like, maybe, after that, it drops off really quickly. And, I could see the Colts establishing it. They kind of had it for a while, but Grigson destroyed it. That kind of organizational stability is really tough to come by. So should they
Chiefs are the other one I would say.
They've built it
since Andy got there.
Yeah. Well, since the second part of Andy, right? The first part of Andy, everybody was like, what was the knock against Andy, right?
Couldn't win in the playoffs.
And that was a real thing for a long time. And
but they were getting there,
right,
they were at least
first
getting there.
Part of there's teams that get there a lot, but I would not put them in the super stable club. And I would say again, they, held case, they drafted well, they had very good coach GM communication, and then they, took a shot, moved up, got Mahomes, sat him for a year, didn't take the bait, and now, they look very
stable. Now
right
they're the poster child for the super stable club for the next I don't know how
so
many,
again,
until Pat's arm falls off.
5-6 clubs out of 32 that you could say have really good organizational stability and results to back it up. Do you reach for the shiny thing? Probably not.
No, I wouldn't.
Why upset the apple cart?
Once Tomlin gets another quarterback, because again, you need both. You can have a good quarterback with a bad coach and be a bad team, a la Houston. You can have a good coach with a bad quarterback and be a bad team, a la tail end of Flacco with the Ravens. You got to have both, So,
somebody's trolling you now.
Chicago extend Pace and Nagy.
They already did.
You still think they secretly extended them?
I cannot think of another reason that A, they're acting like they are, and B, everybody in the organization, the GM, the president, the coach, and the owner's representative, nobody will say. It's the simplest question. When do their contracts run out? We don't think it's important. The hell do you mean you don't think it's important? It's critically important. Oh, we're just not going to say.
Yeah.
Stinks. Something stinks in Denmark. So, yeah. Anyways, no, they may have already, which is a sad thing. Everybody says, oh, this is the last year. They said that last year. There must be measurable improvement. They said that last year. and then they ran it back. They took 8 days, sat on their hands, mumbled a bit, and then said, "We're doing the exact same thing again. Everybody loves it, yeah?" And everybody was like, "No."
Except this time with Andy Dalton.
Yeah, for 10 million instead of the 3 million we could have had him for last year. That's the part. Like, I was on the Dalton train last year before they got Foles and said, out of the options they have, this is the best thing they can get if they're not going to go for Cam. And I don't think they're going to go for Cam for reasons. If you're choosing between all the available options, Dalton's the best one. They could have had him for 3 million. And this year they pay him 10.
Yeah.
And this year it's the best. And I'm like,
to answer your question, Justin, do they answer all donations eventually, or do some get skipped over? It's not necessarily skip. StreamYards, which is what we use to stream on here, is kind of janky in the sense that it will just lose. Like, I can't even scroll back to find all of them. And we get so many donations that it's physically impossible for us to answer all of them in a 3-hour period anyway. So those two kind of factors combined with us not being able to answer all of them directly on stream, but at the end of every show, because again, it's physically impossible for us to answer every single question from donos because we get crazy amount because you guys are all amazing. We have our Twitter DMs open, my email, everything like that. And like, if we miss your question, you are more than welcome to strike up a conversation with us in private, and we answer your question there. Because again, you spend your hard-earned money supporting Bootleg. We want to answer your question any way we can, even if it's not on stream. We still want to do it.
Or better yet, just ask it on Twitter outright, publicly. Just tag us in it, because then everybody can see the answer. And it's no different than the stream at that point. Everybody gets to share in that. So either way, we're happy to do it. There you go.
Yeah, just send me whatever your super chat is, and I'll handle that on Twitter.
Yeah.
How successful would Kellen Mond be if drafted by a team that would have him sit for a few years? I think that's probably best case scenario, like going to New England round 2, because Cam's going to be starting year 1 for him anyway.
Oh, I got one for you.
Huh?
Atlanta.
Oh, that's perfect. Because it's 2 years. Because Matt Ryan's starting for at least 2 more years.
It's 2 years. It's Arthur Smith. Who was Arthur Smith's last redemption story?
Ryan Tannehill.
Where did Ryan Tannehill go to school?
Well, they're very different quarterbacks coming out of A&M. I'll tell you that much. They're very different.
I'm just giving you a hard time. It would be an ideal situation. It doesn't have anything to do with the helmet. It has everything to do with being an athletic quarterback who can move, throw on the run, with good size. And Tannehill had a lot of the knocks against him in Miami that Kellen Mond has in his draft profile, and didn't find success. Tannehill was not considered a success in Miami. It wasn't until he got to Tennessee that, here's a very efficient athletic quarterback that can hit the strike at the right time. All of a sudden he ascended to that sort of solid mid-tier of quarterbacks who you'd really want in the NFL. Yeah. So that'd be a really nice spot for Kellen Mond.
Justin Herbert, YouTube straight robbing me. Push your question back in chat because I won't be able to scroll back and find it because it'll.
We don't need to rob you, Justin.
It's not that it gets deleted. It's just that the chat literally doesn't scroll back that far. So I that's why sometimes you'll see me kind of typing in the background. It's me like copy and pasting questions so that I can put them in banners that I can bring back later. So it's just how StreamYards is. I actually have a call out to the StreamYards people to see is there a workaround for this?
Yeah, can we put these all in a bucket?
I like the StreamYards platform. This is like the one thing that I don't like about it is that I can't go back all the way up the chat to get all the super chats. But just throw it in chat and we'll answer it here. So Kellen Mond is pretty much Jordan Love. Different flaws, different strengths, but in need of the same thing, which is sitting. So, yes, but no.
Yeah, yes, but no. Also in a similar valuation in terms of where they would sit or their strengths in this class, where they would fall in the rankings is what I mean. But both have a ton of potential. You saw the same thing with Love. You saw, I think, some flashier plays from Love, but maybe even a little bit less consistency, but the highs were super high, and they have a lot of the same physical skill set. But they do not play. They do not play the same way. That's for sure.
Oh, here we go. Kelsey, Justin
Best
Herman asked for
two-round
$5.
scenarios for the Giants. What do they do if the top 4 pass catchers and top 2 tackles are gone? Oh, it's okay. Sorry for the Reddit trolls. Yeah, they have sharp teeth, those Reddit trolls.
Yes, they do.
Best 2-round for the Giants. All right, so Giants at 11.
Depth chart.
Yeah.
I don't really think they need pass catchers at this point, to be honest.
I think they do.
I like Galladay, Slayton, Sterling, Shepard.
Yeah,
Ingram's
I like those
better now. Saquon. I don't think they need weapons, and they just invested at tackle.
I don't think they need weapons in the first round is fair. But I think in this class, especially with the way it lines up, you absolutely get another receiver. He doesn't have to start.
Yeah, you want to get a Tamarian Terry later? Yeah, fine.
But you want a Jalen Darden, right? You can get guys lower down that have skill sets that you don't have, because like Shepard's good, but he doesn't have the same strengths. I think he's a more complete player than Jalen Darden, but he doesn't have that. So again, you just build out that quiver, right?
If there's a tackle you like better than Parrott, and then Parrott's just your swing, which you could do a lot worse than that for a swing.
Yep.
I'm all about that. Like, let's see, because they pick at 11, right? So the top 2 tackles are gone, Sewell and Slater. It's tough if they will be.
What do you think
Cincinnati
about? What do you think about Gettleman's other love? He loves 2 things. What do you think about Kwity Paye?
So here's the thing. I have a higher grade on Jalen Phillips, but I understand the concussion thing. So sure. I would let the doctors tell me which one to take between the 2 of them. I think both are going to be great. Jalen, I think, has a better chance to be great. But I would just listen to the doctor. I would turn to my medical guy in the room and be like, tell me what to do. And whatever he thought, I would do it. Because I think you really can't go wrong. And I think they're both worth that pick.
Yeah, because that's Gettleman's thing, right? He's a trench guy. He's inside out. He always has been. He loves offensive linemen. He loves defensive linemen. He collects both of them. It's amazing that they went big for Galladay, but I think they're realizing that, Jones has no hope without a bunch of targets that are going to bail him out, because he's going to need it sometimes. Sometimes he's going to make them look amazing, to be fair to Daniel Jones. Sometimes he's going to need them to make him look average. And that's why I would say even get another target. Like Galladay's great. Ingram, they decided to start throwing to him last year. Awesome. Running back, I think they're fine. Gallman played very well in relief for them last year. Slayton, we both like. Shepard is a very solid slot guy, but you could grab more juice way later, 4th, 5th round. You can get, again, a big, tall, fast guy. You can get a Jonathan Adams. You can get a super juicy, like little slot guy that's, also a returner and can give you some field position. Like, you keep adding weapons because, again, one of those guys gets hurt and you're down to, we've got our top 3 instead of our top 4. Like, you just keep adding weapons. And yes, you get both a tackle and a wide receiver. But again, the sort of top end pass rushers, the Kwity Paye and the Jalen Phillips, they don't last in this draft. They go quick.
Yeah.
So you get those guys up top, and then you grab another tackle that might compete with Pert a little bit later. You grab a wide receiver even later. I would think that would be a nice stack for the Giants, is to get a defensive force at 1, a tackle or whoever they want on the line in 2, and then, the coolest offensive weapon that they like. That's not a running back at 3, because they're running backs.
Let's just say Sewell goes to Cincinnati for whatever reason.
Sure.
And let's say Slater goes to Dallas. And they still really want to tackle to make Parrott the swing, because to make Let's see, 'cause the only other guy they have is Kenny Wiggins.
Yeah.
So like if they get hurt anywhere at tackle, like they're screwed.
Yeah. They're like the Bears.
I would still consider taking Tevin Jenkins regardless.
Yeah, it's tough at 11 though. Value-wise, it's tough at 11.
Not really for me though.
Not really for you, and not for Gettleman. Like, let's be clear.
And he's such a Dave Gettleman player.
But however, look at last year's draft. And I just had this conversation with a Carolina fan this week. And they were like, oh, there's all these defensive players I could get. I said, they drafted everybody on defense last year. They just put money into Darnold. Darnold did weapons. They're going to draft offense this year. Maybe not all offense. They might grab a couple of defensive studs along the way if they get value. But they're going to pour draft capital into offense. It was all defense last year. Only team in the league to do it. So
I could see it.
Yep.
The good thing is they have a lot less holes than they had last year.
No,
So
it's a
they're
decent
flexible.
team, and this is the make it or break it year for Jones if you're a Giants fan, because they're gonna do the Sam Darnold approach, right? It's funny that they're both in New York last year, and he's in Darnold's in Carolina this year. They're gonna surround them. They're gonna give them every chance, and if they fail, they're gonna replace them. That's
Speaking of Jalen Phillips, we had another missed super chat from Nick Holcomb. If you're Dallas, would you take Surtain or Jalen Phillips?
I saw this one. This was a great, well-phrased question about Jerry Jones sipping out of his bootleg stein of beer and deciding on Surtain or Jalen Phillips.
This one's hard.
It is.
Throw up their depth chart.
I think Surtain.
Really hard.
Not because he's necessarily a better or more valuable player than Jalen Phillips, but the average number of 3 and 5 step drops in the NFL is 4 to 1 over 5 to 7 step drops. So
yeah,
the idea that the outside edge rushers can get there quickly enough to affect the play, on 4 out of 5 plays, they're not going to, which is why
there's been a big push in the, as you mentioned, there's been a big push in the analytics community that corners over pass rushers.
And I don't even do that. I'm saying interior rushers over exterior rushers because they're closer. If you've got a guy like Aaron Donald that can penetrate, if you've got a guy that can flash middle pressure, and we saw it with Kinlaw last year, right? If you got a guy you can put in the middle who's going to collapse the pocket and be there in 2 seconds, that's still going to affect the play, even if he's pushing a guard back into the quarterback. The edge rusher, loop stunt, a spin move on the outside, all that stuff's taking too long, So I would take Surtain because I think you can probably get an edge that gives you some pressure later on down. Not sure you're going to get a corner. If they've got a big corner that they love farther on down, go for it. But it's their buyer's choice. Let me just say that. I've got a few that I like later on in the draft that I go to pretty regularly in mock drafts. Guys like Benjamin St. Justy from Minnesota, Tay Gowan from UCF, but he's starting to go pretty high as well. There's some guys with size down there, but I think you can get a better edge in the middle.
My UW kid, Keith Taylor.
Yeah, Taylor's on there for sure.
Really underrated press corner. I will say, when you look at think of all the best defenses in the NFL going back to 2010, Legion of Boom, Vic Fangio's Bears from 2018, Staley's Rams were up there in terms of every single metric. The Patriots, at their peak a couple years ago. The thing that all 4 of those elite defenses, probably the 4 best defenses that we've seen, and also the Jacksonville Jaguars in 2017. All 5 of those elite defenses, the thing that they had in common was, they had a front 4 that could get after you, but they also had elite secondaries that allowed that front 4 time to get after quarterbacks. Like Yannick and Calais, 2017 with the Jags, like their big thing was, running TE and ET stunts, which take 2 or 3 seconds to get home. Those aren't going to get home unless you have Jalen Ramsey and AJ Boya on the outside. Rushing forward with Khalil Mack and Akeem Hicks in 2018, that's not going to work unless you have a healthy Prince Mukamara, Kyle Fuller, Eddie Jackson playing like an all-pro. Michael Bennett winning in prime Legion of Boom is not going to work unless you got Earl Thomas, Richard Sherman, prime, Browner. Every single elite defense can be traced back to elite secondary play. So I love Jalen Phillips. There's a reason why I was prepared to mock J.C. Horn or Patrick Surtain to the Giants over Jalen Phillips until they signed Adoree and all them, because they needed a corner. And even though they also needed an edge rusher, I was going to prioritize corner. It wasn't until they shored up corner in free agency that I was like, fine, yeah, take edge. But like when both of those were equal needs, I was leaning corner. And I think it's going to be the same way for Dallas. They need an edge and they need a corner. I love Jalen Phillips. He's a top 10 talent. But if there's a top 10 team that also needs a corner, I'm going to take the top 10 corner instead. So I lean, that's a big, long way of saying I lean Patrick Surtain as well.
There you go.
There you go. Let's see back here. We had another missed super chat that I'm trying to get to here. Stand by.
No worries. I like the one for $700. If Bill Belichick has a losing record next season, does it mean that he wasn't ready for Brady to leave and that he wasn't prepared and that Brady was more
They won't have a
important
losing record.
Probably
I don't
not,
think they're gonna have a losing
but
record.
that's a classic question, the whole Brady Belichick. I mean, you want to ever get into it with a New England fan to ask which one is the genius, and you'll get an opinion.
It depends on if they win or lose on Sunday and you go on Monday morning radio. Then it's
You'll get an
that's
opinion.
what matters.
Yeah.
Does Tevin Jenkins have the ability to play left tackle? If so, would he work for the Chargers at 13? I am of the opinion, yes. Him in the top 15 is going to be rich for a lot of people.
Yep.
But I think there's technically four top 15 caliber tackles between Sewell, Slater, Jenkins, and Darisaw. If all four of them go in the top 15, I'm good with it. I have zero qualms about that. So yes, he is super athletic, one of the most athletic tackles to come out in the last 30 years, believe it or not. He was like a top 34 or 35 tackle in terms of RAS since 1987. He could play left. Absolutely. Let me get here. There's another one. Where was that other missed super chat? It was so good. Here we go. Tim Blumenshine for $10. Would you take who would you take the Lions to do with a first round pick? Also, a little sad that my favorite podcasters are Bears fans, but I put up with it.
We appreciate the fact that you still listen to us, even though, we stand for the Bears. We talked about the Lions a little bit and where they go. Again, they need talent. Lions are in a place where they need talent all over the place because the team wasn't left in very good states under Patricia, and they're just going to, if they're smart, and again, they have a new administration, right? New coaching staff. So the whole they like their edge rushers like this, or they like their corners like this. We don't know that about Dan Campbell. So if they're smart, they'll let the board come to them. The chances that anybody's going to trade up to 7 are unlikely. It's possible, but I don't think their phone's going to be flooded with offers. And if, trade down would be good because they need more players than just one. If they don't have the trade down option, which is very likely, they let the board come to them and you pick the most talented player. If that's Kyle Pitts, if he slips, fine. If not, you pick one of the wide receivers. If not, you pick one of the offensive tackles. You kind of can't miss because you got a lot of holes. And there's a lot of strength in this draft where they need players. So I would say one of the top offensive targets, if Pitts is there, yes, grab him because he's a unicorn. If not, you get a guy like Jalen Waddle, not a guy as a Bears fan I want to see in the Honolulu Blue. Do not want to be playing that guy. He's a threat. He's going to be a problem on Sundays. The Lions, I don't want to say they're in a great spot, but they're in a, they are where they are, and they'd have a hard time missing, right? There's going to be 3, 4, 5 guys there at 7 that they could pick any one of them. It would fill a need for them, and they're really good players. So, trade down, get picks if you can. I doubt they can, just where they are. Grab one of the guys that's left, one of the top 2 tackles, one of the top 3 wide receivers, or a top 20, whatever you want to call him, and Kyle Pitts if he's still there.
I think Kyle Pitts, it doesn't matter if you qualify him as a tight end. It doesn't matter if you qualify him as a receiver. Devonta, he's an outside receiver that can also play in the slot. Waddle is a slot receiver that can also play outside. Like, it doesn't matter who they go with.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I half expect him to trade down. Like if QB4,
if they can, yes, but I don't think they're going to be able to. I think the QBs are going to be gone, and everybody's going to say, I can wait.
I don't know, because if this Mac Jones shit happens, and then you got Lance there at 7, or Fields there at 7, even.
If Fields is there at 7, they're going to be taking calls from the Bears. They're not going to want to do that.
And I'm giving up 3 first-round picks. I'm giving up 3 second. Like, I don't give a fuck.
No, if Fields is there, they're going to get calls. I don't think Fields will be there. I think Fields might go at 4.
Can you imagine how relieved Ryan Pace would be if he pulled off that trade and got
don't.
His job would be saved.
Don't do that to me.
He'd be like, oh, I screwed up.
Just don't do that to me. I don't want that hope. I've closed off my heart. I know. It would be a hell of a thing. If we woke up on day 2 and Fields was a Bear, that would be a very different outlook.
I wouldn't care about the rest of the draft. I wouldn't care.
No. All right, here's mine. Do you think the Bears should draft a wide receiver on day 2 or 3 to round out the receiving core? Absolutely. I think they need 2. If so, who would be the best fit and value? And I mean 2 either from what's left in free agency, which isn't great but isn't terrible, or quite frankly, just 2 from this class. There's a lot of good wide receivers in this class. Many. And again, the Bears are kind of lucky that I think they can go outside or inside. It'd be great if they got outside, but Mooney plays pretty well outside. Mooney would also be very good in the slot, or they could get a big receiver and move him into the slot. Either way, if Terrace Marshall is there, he won't be there at the Bears' 2nd round pick. If he's there at the 1st round pick, I would consider him because I think he's that talented. Who else is going to be there? If Elijah Moore makes it out of the 1st round, which I don't think he will. That's who I
was going to say.
If Elijah Moore is there, he's going to be he's going to be the guy that they all hoped, and I hoped, quite frankly, that Anthony Miller was going to be. I loved Anthony Miller coming out of Memphis. I thought he and DJ Moore were pretty much neck and neck. They traded up to get him. I thought, great. He's just been terribly inconsistent. He hasn't been able to turn the consistency corner. When he's good, he's very good. When he gets involved early in the game, he lights right up. When he doesn't, forget it. You're not getting anything out of him for the day. So it's time to move on from Miller. Moore would be a great slot. And then later on down, there's I really like Cornell Powell. I'm way higher on him than most people are. Josh Palmer from Tennessee, not a guy a lot of people are talking about. Tamorrion Terry, we've been talking a lot about. Also love him because he plays special teams like a demon. He's a gunner, and they're letting Cordell Patterson test the market. A guy like Tamorrion Terry would have value in the 3rd or the 4th because he's going to fill up kind of 2 roster spots for you, a special teams 1 and a wide receiver 4 or 5. That's what you need your 4th and 5th and 6th wide receiver to do. They got to play special teams. Terry would be great at that. And then there's a billion little fast slot guys in this draft. There's a billion really
Amari
big
Rodgers,
guys.
Cade.
Amari Rodgers is going later than people think. The
Eskridge.
league loves him, but he's going later.
Oh yeah, I mean he's a small slot receiver gadget play. He's going to go around 4.
Yeah, you got Tutu Atwell. You got
Tutu's going to go real.
He's tiny. Marquez Stevenson is there. These are guy you really like, Frank Darby. I think would be a great slot, way down 5th, 6th round,
super sleeper.
Yeah, love Darby. There's just so many. Shi Smith as a straight slot. Shi Smith from South Carolina is really good. He's very solid.
I'm surprised you didn't bring up my potential Allen Robinson replacement, assuming Robinson leaves next year. Nico Collins.
Nico's great. 6'4", 215. lost a little bit of weight, looked way more explosive at the Senior Bowl. We both liked him last year in flashes on tape. Again, Michigan doesn't throw outside the numbers all that often, but he and Josh Palmer are a lot alike, actually.
Yeah.
There's just, the bottom line is you can throw a stick, and it doesn't have to be round 2, can be 3. If you know what you're looking for. There's guys all the way down the board. Sage Surratt can be a great outside red zone threat. If you want to throw fades in the red zone, get Sage Surratt in the 4th or 5th round. He'll be there. You can basically make him your Jimmy Graham replacement.
Sage Surratt's a tight end that went on a diet plan. That's how I see
Nope.
him.
He can be your Jimmy Graham replacement. Get rid of Graham, cut Graham, and say we're going to give the inside the 20 reps that we gave Graham to Sage Surratt, and you'll be just fine. So lots of different options at wide receiver in this draft. 1 trillion bootleg bucks. Oh, Matt Corral's my guy, but there's a lot.
I put this up there specifically for you to talk about him. I wanted to bring up Kayvon Thibodeau from Oregon.
Oh, you do you?
Okay, so
tell him the story.
Kayvon Thibodeau is the guy when EJ was at my house last year, and I can't even remember who we were watching.
No, we weren't. We took a break. So when I went to Brett's house to start Bootleg last year, we sat around and watched film and ate pizza and drank beer. It's not really all that much different than what we're doing now. And we had been kind of grinding on a bunch of positions, and we just needed a break. So we went out on the deck a little bit, and then we're like, who's a guy that's not eligible? Because we tend not to spend a lot of time on people that aren't eligible because we have so much other film to watch. But like, who's a guy that you saw that you like went down the rabbit hole on that's not eligible that you're just like, can't wait? And he showed me one of his, and then I was like, all right, turn on the Oregon tape and watch the defensive end. And like 5 plays in, he was like, holy. He's like, this guy can start in the NFL. Young. Yeah, he's like, this guy can start in the NFL. And I was like, yeah, and he's a freshman. He's a true freshman. Now, Kayvon Thibodeau is the guy that you see, kind of like you said, Osai was Jenkins's kryptonite on that one tape. If you are watching Pac-12 tackles or guards and they get eaten, it's usually Thibodeau. And everybody's like, well, it was Kayvon Thibodeau. Like, yeah, no, he's amazing. I've sent you a bunch of sort of down the radar guys that I've seen, a bunch of freshmen guys that playing like, so this is one of the things when you're watching tape, the way I watch tape, like if somebody flashes, we talked about those defensive line rotations. If somebody flashes, I look their number up. I've got their roster and I go back to the 2020 roster and I go, who is that? And it says what their class year is and where they're from. I was watching Miami tape, and here comes this defensive tackle, and I was like, not the right number. Who is that guy? I go and look. He's a freshman. He came from New Jersey or New York City. Maybe he's a Christ the King guy. I can't remember. Anyways, and I was like, that kid, like, watch him. He's a redshirt freshman or something, and he's blowing people up. He's only getting 12, 15 snaps a game, but he's wrecking people when he comes in. So you always see him. You kind of make notes about him. I don't know. Brett and I probably make notes about him in different ways, but there's always those people that are like, is he eligible? Is he eligible? No, he's not eligible. Okay, not for another 2 years. Oh, okay, crap.
Stingley, the corner from LSU, was like that. I mean, as a true freshman, you're like, yeah, that's a top 5 pick. There's a right tackle at Bama that's an absolute fucking monster.
Yeah,
Bama I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Yeah, there's a DJ Uiagalelei is going to be fighting with Bryce Young to be
cannon.
Yeah,
God, he can throw the ball a long way.
Uiagalelei and Bryce Young are going to probably meet in another playoff game at some point between Clemson and Bama, the annual Clemson-Bama playoff game, and B, they're going to be number 1 and 2 in their respective draft class. I don't know who's going to go first and who's going to go second, but like they're from my area. Bryce Young went to my high school alma mater. Uiagalelei went to their arch. Like, they've been playing each other since they were 17. And they were like that in high school too. Like, they were the guy. Like, I'm friends with Bryce Young's old OC, who I knew as a high school coach as well. Ironically, lives like a couple miles from me. Like we and I remember we were having a chat about him, and he's like, when he stepped off the plane, at Bama, he was the best quarterback Nick Saban's ever had. And that was while Tua was still there. And because he knew he was going to go to Bama. He's like, he's going to be the best quarterback in Bama history. And this is a very acclaimed high school OC that's put, I don't know, 5-6 quarterbacks in the NFL at this point. And he was saying that. Like, Bryce Young's amazing. And DJ Uyunglele is going to be amazing as well. They're going to be number 1 and 2 in the 2023 class, I think it is. Almost guaranteed. What was the Evan Neal? I think that's the right tackle that I was thinking of. He's like 6'7", 320, dancing bear. He's like he's just absolutely crazy. I'm trying to find more missed super chats here because there's many of them. Amari Rodgers to the Chiefs.
When is the question? Like, probably not when you're thinking.
I don't hate it because, again, Tyreek doesn't have to play in the slot for them. Tyreek can play X.
The Chiefs in round
Amari,
2, I'd be interested, but like Amari's not going where you think he is. He got a ton of buzz at the Senior Bowl, and he rightfully so. He plays well. You start stacking him up against receivers, and the NFL has a different ranking certainly than draft media does or the draft public does, and they put more into potential because it's the classic NFL saying you want to be safe and be good, or you want to take a chance and be great. And the NFL is going to take swings, especially up high. I know typically you'd think, oh, you wait later and grab guys with athletic potential. No, the NFL is going to grab them early. Guys like Daniel Hunter, like those guys, they're going to grab. Some teams have a higher tolerance for that than others. Amari Rodgers he's very versatile. He's a great route runner. They had him running running back drills at his pro day. Like, he can be a kind of versatile. He's going to
step into the league in the right situation. He's an 80 catch guy as a rookie, but you don't ever expect him to be like.
I think he's more like a 50-55 catch guy, and it doesn't have anything to do with his ability. It just has to do with where he goes. If he goes to some bereft wide receiver core, he'll get 80. If he goes to a place like the Chiefs, he'd be lucky to get 40 or 45 because they're going to spread the ball around.
Yeah, that's when I'm saying go to the right situation. It's like when Jarvis Landry went to Miami and he was like their slot, but he was
the guy. Yep,
he was the guy. Like, if you went to that kind of situation, you don't have to do anything to get him to that point. He's already there. Yeah, but I also don't think he would get more than that.
Yeah, and he's kind of at his ceiling, right? I mean, I think he's going to learn some things about. Again, he's a very polished route runner already. He's one of those guys he's pretty well optimized physically. He's amazing. It's not, we often say, oh, wait until that guy gets into the league. Like, Mac Jones is a classic, right? Mac Jones does not have an NFL body right now. A year from now, he's going to be stronger. His arm's probably going to be stronger. He's going to have a better body fat percentage, right? You look at Amari Rodgers, like, you're not optimizing Amari Rodgers much more than he's optimized right now. He and Cornell Powell are ridiculously, like, Clemson's strength and nutrition program's doing it right.
Yeah.
So,
and we mean that in that we mean that in that they're good players.
Yeah. No,
but they're already good. It's just they might not be. They
don't have another 30 or 40% in the tank. Whereas we're talking about some of these smaller school guys, these underdeveloped guys, these balls of clay guys that have all these skills. They're not going to produce like Amari Rodgers is right out of the gate. 3 to 5 years from now, if they hit the right situation, that's what the NFL is like addicted to. And it's not right necessarily. But I think Amari Rodgers is going to go lower because, again, they kind of know what they're getting. It's very good, but all this Amari Rodgers talk in the first round. Devontae. I mean, there's so many. You look at Terron Armstead, right?
Yeah. He was a ball of clay Hall of Famer.
Absolutely. And the NFL loves these guys, and the public's like, it's such a risk. And it is, because there's just as many more that have flamed out. But the NFL wants that guy that can ascend to being a top 5% player. And Amari Rodgers is not that guy. He's going to be very good right out of the gate. He reminds me a lot of Sterling Shepard. We talked about Sterling Shepard.
Beat me to it. But we love Sterling Shepard.
Sterling Shepard, great player, but he is what he is. He was largely what he was coming out, and he's going to produce at about that level, and that is a pro starting wide receiver level. Nothing to be ashamed of, at all.
Yeah.
That's one of the best football players in the world. But he's not a guy that you're going to be throwing Randy Moss passes to. That's just not his gig.
At least not often. Paxman for $15. Could you rank the divisions from strongest to weakest? And is there any division you think is underrated? I'd say AFC East is underrated.
They're about to be.
People see it as the Bills and everybody else. Not the case. I don't think there's a bad, at least now, assuming the Jets are taking the quarterback we think they're going to take.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a bad team in the division. No. I think a lot of the Jets' struggles last year were Adam Gase related, and also they were one good offseason away personnel wise. They had some pieces that we liked. The interior pass rush was elite. I think CJ Mosley opting out really hurt them. They have some young secondary players that we like, but they weren't quite there yet. They had some receivers we liked, but they were dealing with injuries and they weren't quite there yet. Mekhi Becton's a stud. They were one offseason away and one better coaching staff away from, I think, being a legitimately good team. Not elite. I'm not saying they're top tier, but I do not think they're bad at all. I love the coaching staff they put together. Either of the quarterbacks they take, whether it's Wilson or Field, are going to be an upgrade. You're going to sink a whole bunch of picks over the next couple of years because they have a shit ton of picks into surrounding this new quarterback with talent. The Jets are on the upswing, I think, massively. The Dolphins don't really have any holes on the roster that I can think of, at all. Other than, I guess it just comes down to, do you believe in Tua or not? I think the jury's still out, but the team itself, the roster construction and the coaching staff, I think is very good. The Bills are the Bills. They're awesome. And the Patriots, I think it was more about talent deficiency last year than anything else. And they were still a 7-9 team.
They're going to rebound.
They had a bunch of opt-outs. They had very little offensive talent at skill position. Cam got COVID. And not to
nobody could separate.
Nobody could separate. I think the Patriots were at their lowest last year because everything went wrong for them and they still went 7-9. There's not a bad team in the AFC East.
No, AFC East is really good and getting better. And for underrated, AFC North is, Cleveland, with Stefanski coming to Cleveland and sort of figuring out Baker Mayfield's keys, and Cleveland's roster's always been amazing talent-wise, but it is even more so with Andrew Berry. He's making some really smart choices. Pittsburgh, like we said, super good. You got the Ravens, who are the Ravens, and then, the Bengals have got Burrow, and if they put a line in front of him, that, those games are all wars, right? Game of the year last year was an AFC North game. So I think a lot of people have kind of been like Pittsburgh and Baltimore forever, and the Browns have been doormats, and the Bengals have been, they've had their hot streaks, but never been sort of a complete team. Not saying they're a complete team. They're fourth in their division, but again, if you have Burrow and a healthy line, and you add a couple of weapons to the weapons they already have there, they're going to beat some people, right? They're not going to be the easy out in the division. And that's a mashing division. So
I'm trying to rank divisions.
Best.
I mean,
that's hard. We'd love the AFC West because there's just a ton of firepower in the AFC West.
I think the NFC West might be the best division.
NFC West is, it depends on what you really think about Kyler and Arizona, because other than that, we know San Francisco is going to be amazing. You got a quarterback in LA who I think is going to be able to take them higher than their previous quarterback. Seattle is Seattle. Russ is always going to keep them in contention. Without Russ, I think Seattle is a rough team, but Russ makes a huge difference. He's a Hall of Fame quarterback. So
who do you think is the worst division? Is it still the
worst? Yes.
I don't know.
It is for now. Because there's a lot of questions. They could turn it. Washington is not the worst team in that division anymore, but Philadelphia, you think they're killing people right now? I don't think they are. The Giants, they still have Daniel Jones. They got to figure it out. They surround him with pieces, and they had a nice run at the end of last year. Again, could be one of those teams that continues that peak into the next year. Cowboys are going to get Dak back. That's going to make a huge difference. They got a wild receiving core, but they've got some roster deficiencies. Flat out, like Washington's building something. Like Washington is.
You put a quarterback in the Washington roster right now, and they're a threat to everybody.
I think they're a threat without, like, if they get average quarterback play and have another good draft, that defense is looking really good. Washington is assembling something really fun. But I think as a division overall, it's either them or, NFC North, right? Because the Vikings are the Vikings. They're going to be 500 or better. Green Bay's class of the division as long as Aaron Rodgers is there. Detroit is seriously rebuilding. Like NFL teams don't often rebuild. Detroit is rebuilding. They're a couple of years from whatever they're going to be. They'll win some games. And then Chicago
I think will be average.
Chicago's just they really don't look like they have a plan right now. So I would say as a division, they're in the running for worst division as well.
I think Chicago's plan is to be average. Once they struck out at all the
we'll see.
Quarterbacks,
either that or they're going to go for some crazy gambit with quarterback, which is going to cost them well into the future. And I'm not sure I dig that deal. AFC South.
I just because the Titans are good, the Colts are good, the Texans are garbage. The Jacks, I'm not sure.
Jacksonville, we don't know with Urban. And again, rookie quarterbacks, no matter how good they are, and Trevor's really good, they take a while to get going. I mean, they all do. You look at, last year, Herbert had a record-setting rookie year as a rookie quarterback and had some amazing plays. How'd the Chargers do overall? Like as a team with the best rookie quarterback ever, statistically.
Well,
they still didn't win a lot
going back. You need to have a good coach. You need to have a good quarterback. They had one of those things.
Yeah.
Their game management from the head coaching position was not great, Bob.
Not great, Bob. Yeah. No, it's a great question, though. I like that question.
It's a great question.
We'll play more with that in the offseason.
We were going to end at 6, but I do want to do one more to close out.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I want to get as many of these missed super chats as I can. So this will be the last one. And then again, if we missed you, DM us or just tag us on Twitter. We'll be answering questions all night from people that we missed. Again, appreciate everybody who donated. So this is our last missed super chat.
Oh, this was a good one.
Stream.
Oh, Vikash,
that's why I wanted it.
Yeah, this is a great question. I saw this one come by. It's excellent. And it speaks to value in the draft too, right? So who are some RBs like Najee Harris in the later rounds that the Steelers can potentially take that can make some sort of immediate impact? And the answer is lots of them.
Yeah.
Lots of them. You can get...
I'm Khalil Herbert fan club president over here.
Yeah, Khalil Herbert. But, Trey Sermon, Ramondre Stevenson, who's that freaking hammer from Missouri? Larry Roundtree, Jamar Jefferson.
Jefferson. I think Sermon fits the Steelers as a culture.
Yeah, really so does Ramondre Stevenson.
Again, just big, thick, tackle breaking machine. Not a lot of long speed, but the first 10 to 20 is all you need. I think James Conner is the best. James Conner or Javonte Williams are the two best of that kind of class in terms of big bruising back that has like short area burst. But if you miss out on those guys, as you said, Ramondre Stevenson, Trey Sermon, who's that other one who's just massive?
Which one?
Oh God, he's like 240. I gotta look it up. Anyway,
Jamar Jefferson I like a lot, and a name to sort of keep in mind that isn't going to be high on anybody's list, but I think he would be fun in that system is Jarrett Patterson from Buffalo.
Spencer Brown from UAB. He's 235, 6 foot. He's just a massive human being, like thick.
Oh yeah, I got him.
Ben Mason from Michigan. Are they? Oh, that's a fullback. They counted him as a running back on these. I was like, I didn't think he was a running back, but they put him in the running back rankings. That's weird.
And then who's the other one? Oh, hang on. There's one of the guys on the ball clay list that I was like, just as a physical marvel, not necessarily fit for the Steelers, but Kene Nwangu from Iowa State as a running back, 989 on RAS. Yeah. Yeah. That guy's something else. So lots of fun. Oh, hang on. Before we get out of here, we totally forgot.
Oh, Chuba Hubbard too from Oklahoma State. Chuba Hubbard. He's one that people forgot about.
Yeah, he's more
very
fast.
underrated.
Yeah, he's more.
I know,
fast.
but
all right.
If they want to get a slasher, but I think Khalil Herbert might go ahead of Chuba. So if they miss out on Herbert, Chuba's I think one they can take. Obviously, Travis Etienne is going to be like the first in that mold that goes, but he's going to go in the top 40 to 50 picks.
Yeah.
But there's a shitload of running backs in this class.
Yeah, you can get them late. It's the good news. You don't need to go up top. But anyways, let me screen share because we were going to do this last week and then we forgot. Well, we postponed. Bam. Bam. Pull those frames off. There you go. For all you that said, oh, you don't make a hoodie? We do make a hoodie now. Everybody was like, pullover. I want the pullover. I want the monogram logo. And we decided that we should put the stripped logo on the back because we just thought that was a little bit nicer. And
I love that logo.
Yep. So super nice, soft acrylic on the inside. These just came out last week. We don't even have ours yet. They're in the mail, but we'll certainly be wearing them on the streams. But for everybody that said, hey, I live in England and it's cold all the time, I can't wear a t-shirt. I want a hoodie. Full size run, all the good stuff. So yeah, if you want a hoodie, you can now head right over to a bootlegfootballpodcast.com. Pick yourself up a hoodie
logo.
Yeah.
Our buddy Will did that logo and he
did all of our logos that you see on the frames, that you see on YouTube, that you see on Twitter, all that good stuff. Will Whiskey Ranger 29 on Twitter. But my favorite comment about the hoodies when we released them was there's a new podcast called The Irish Bears Show, which I said sounded like a trap aimed particularly at me. And they commented on the hoodie design, said, oh, looks class. Let's go.
Jake, he said no question for now, just a thanks. He gave us $3. I just want to again one last thank you to him. One last thank you to everybody that donated. You guys are all incredible. Again, that is my Twitter handle. That over there is EJ's Twitter handle.
That one.
DM us any missed super chats or just tag us on Twitter.
And make sure you're following us on Twitter if you're not already. I know most of you are, but that's where we put up all the little scouting hints, the ideas that the draft Q&As are coming up or new shows being released, guests, all that stuff in the store. It all comes through Twitter. So make sure you're following us on Twitter. And you will get all the newest bootleg news right away. But we are going to sign off and do this again. We're going to try and do this. I don't know that we're going to do another one this week. We might. But we got a couple of guests we're recording this week. Hush, hush. That are draft focused. I think everybody out there is going to love that content. We're really excited. We loved having Brandon Thorne on, and these guys are just as good. So look for those to roll out over the next couple of weeks. And follow us on Twitter. We'll do draft live streams. Again, ask any questions you want to, either publicly or through the DMs on Twitter, and we'll answer them there. But lots of good fun, lots of draft talk. It's not going to slow down anytime soon. We're going to roll on right to the draft. It's just going to get louder and bigger. And then we've got the draft live stream that'll go for all 3 days of the 2021 NFL draft. We'll be talking about all these guys until we run out of voices or people stop bringing us food.
We'll see you guys back here soon. Later.